everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. Happy to have you with us after what we expect was a fun weekend. Big Utah football win at Rice-Eccles on Saturday. Roy Jefferson inducted to the Ring of Honor. Coach Ron McBride inducted into the Ring of Honor. Utah football continues its march toward an undefeated season. Okay, that's too much. It's too much. Sorry. Our show today and every day is brought to you by Big Willie's, Utah Sports Bar at 1717 South Main. They've got hot lunch coming at you all week long. I saw the menu, and it said a crispy Cobb salad today with homemade ranch dressing. Yes, please. That is the lunch special today. Head down there to 1717 South Main. Tell them OC sent you. They're going to hook you up. All right, look. Utah's undefeated. They're 2-0. All right, they're off to a great start. Up to ranking the number 20 ranking in the AP Top 25. Which, by the way, we got to give the AP voters, so many of whom don't watch Utah football, we got to give them, I guess, a little bit of extra credit for the fact that they now have put Utah into a category where the Utes are a team they want to vote for. Kyle Whittingham press conference happens every Monday. Coach Witt's at the podium now. We'll get back to this in a second.
But more clean than others. I don't think we hit a rhythm and a groove on offense as well as we did the week before. That was evidenced by punting. Well, we punt 4 times, I think, in this past game, where last week we punted once. However, another game of 0 turnovers, which is great. Defense, better tackling. We only missed 4 tackles the entire game, and so that was a step forward in that regard. A few more penalties than we had the week before, so that was something not as clean as well. But overall, we took care of business, came out of the game fairly healthy, and it's now on to Wyoming. Road trip up in Laramie. No stranger to our coaching staff, the place, but I don't know. I would doubt any of our players have played. Well, Justin Stevenson, our receiver, obviously played there, but otherwise, I'm not sure many of our guys have been to Laramie, Wyoming to play a game. So it'll be a new experience for them. But I thought Devin performed well again. He's around 80% completion percentage for the season, which is outstanding. We knew that was something that we wanted to work on, and he worked diligently at that. And then through 2 games, it's only 2 games. You can't get too far ahead of ourselves, but through 2 games, he has definitely made big strides in that regard, as well as protecting the football. So, questions?
This was Justin's question. It said, with Wyoming coming up, what are the challenges that your team faced playing in Laramie?
Well, it's always a hostile crowd. My memory as a player and of coaching there is they'll get after you pretty good. The crowd will, and so it's an environment you got to be able to handle. The elevation for us shouldn't be a big deal. It's a couple thousand feet higher, but we're used to elevation, so I don't expect that to be an issue. We just got to go up there and play our game, play well, and take care of the football, run efficiently. Get chunk yards. That was another thing we did in the game Saturday. We had more chunk yard plays than we did the week previous. I think we had 8 plays of 15 yards or more, and so that was a positive. But we just got to go up and play good football and prepare. And the key will be in the preparation. Monday through Friday is when the games are won or lost, and so we got to have a great week of practice, which we have had the first 2 weeks of the season, and that's just kind of how the season goes. You just show up, care, and repeat. That's how it works.
Has the QB2 spot changed for you? Is Bird that guy, or kind of how do you see that rim shaking out?
Not necessarily. As we talked last week, Isaac Wilson does have a redshirt year. That combined with wanting to find out more about Bird in life situation has led to what you've seen the last couple weeks. But no, if it was a long-term situation, then I'm not saying that has necessarily changed. But Bird did do a great job. I thought he really handled the offense well. Played a full quarter and a half, 4 for 4, throwing the ball. Had a really nice run on the touchdown run and really looked poised and did some good things. So it's still a work in progress, but or he is still a work in progress, but I wouldn't say the depth has necessarily changed right now.
Coach, how would you describe kind of the progression of the passing game? There's been a lot of easy checks with Dan Pierce. How do you describe the progression over the course of the season?
Yeah, I think it's something that needs to continue to improve. I think it's off to a pretty good start, but not real explosive, I guess is the proper word. We haven't had a lot of explosive plays in the throw game, although Wayshawn's, was a short throw, long run, but he went for 50 plus, and I think he saw some of the speed. Not to change the subject, but Wayshawn has really good speed. He got out on that run as well, 40-something yards in the run. So, but we've got to continue to push the ball up the field more often. I think Noah Benny needs to become a little more involved in that, and that's why he's playing over there a portion of the time is to help us stretch the field vertically.
Coach, you've had plenty of experience playing in Laramie as a player.
Many times, yep.
Do you have any memories that maybe stick out as playing or coaching in Laramie?
Well, I know my was it our senior year when I was a player or junior, went up there and got beat in a snowstorm. That was a miserable experience. It was freezing cold and we lost that game, which we didn't lose a lot of games, but that was one of them. Then coaching wise, I can't remember what year it was, but we had those flamethrowers, not flamethrowers, but torpedo heaters or whatever they are on the sideline. And my dad was coaching with us at the time and got too close to it, and his pants started on fire. And so we had to douse him with the water and get the pants out. And so that was a fairly light, humorous moment there. But yeah.
Just kind of following up on that. I mean, they don't get a lot of Big 12 teams coming there. I believe you went there last year. But this is, if they can beat you or give you a good game, this is kind of their season. How do you treat, like, their emotional level is going to be at an all-time high?
Yeah, well, we got to understand that as a team, and we got to, we thought we did a good job preparing last week, knowing that, Cal Poly was essentially, everything to gain, nothing to lose against us, and anytime you take anyone for granted or don't understand the dynamics of the game, then bad things can happen. But our guys are smart guys; they understand exactly what you just said, and we've got to, like I said, prepare with the same intention and the same efficiency and the same work ethic that we have, any other game. So it's got to be the case.
And then traditionally, you've had a lot of bell cow backs. One of them was on the sideline the other day, Zach Moss. What are the advantages of having this 1-2 punch? And Wayshawn was saying they don't have a nickname yet. Do you have anything for them?
I don't have a nickname, but I can tell you that we have had by committee in the past in certain years, and other years, as you mentioned, the lead guy. And really the bottom line is the overall output, and we've rushed for nearly 300 yards both games. And so we're getting what we need right now. And it was good to see, as you mentioned, that Devin did a good job breaking out some runs and avoiding hits. Did a much better job this week of staying out of harm's way than last week, and so that's big to get what we get from him, but yet keep him upright. And so and it's not just the two running backs. Hunter Andrews gives us some rushing yards. Smith Snowden gives us some rushing yards. Nate Johnson gave us rushing yards. So it's more than just the two guys, but as long as they're 1 and 1A, we'll continue with it. If one of them separates themselves, then we'll go that direction.
After watching the tape, what do you think you need to clean up in terms of coverage heading into conference play?
Too many turning guys loose up the field, and that's due to poor eyes. Eyes, typically you get young defenders, and I consider Jackson Benny a young defender because he hasn't played much game time experience in the defensive secondary, and his eyes got bad on occasion. And that's really the key. The key is disciplined eyes, and particularly in man coverage, because we're a heavy man coverage team. And as soon as you start getting nosy and looking in the backfield, you're going to lose your guy and get separation. And that was the case on just about every route that we turned loose, is because of bad eyes.
You had a couple of people sub out on the offensive line last week. How would you assess, Alex Harrison and the other guys that maybe stepped in while some guys sat out last week?
I thought they did a good job. I thought Alex, first of all, you start with his snaps because he's the center. That's where it all starts. We had clean snaps for the most part in the entire game. Keith Olson is a guy that played a lot in the UCLA game, not necessarily at a guard position, but in what the Rhino or the Gorilla packages that we have. so I thought they stepped in when pressed into full-time duty and did a nice job.
Going back to Dampier and his progressions, last year obviously he had that touchdown interception ratio that was the same. Was there any coaching to kind of help him limit that? And because it seemed like there was a few plays on Saturday where he kind of hesitated, didn't hit his guy. Or is that kind of part of that equation, or is it just him developing into who he needs to be?
I think the latter, and I think that he went from his sophomore year to his junior year, and typically you see from year to year, particularly when you're a full-time starter, you get better. And Coach Beck has helped him get better this year, and Devin's made a concerted effort to turn those weaknesses that were there last year into strengths, and so I think it's just a natural progression of a quarterback getting better.
Coach, how would you assess the defensive line, particularly the young freshman tackles so far?
Really good. Pupu Sepulona did a really nice job last week. He got about 15, 20 snaps, made a couple plays. Carson Kafusi the same, but really impressed so far through 2 games with our guys that are playing full-time. Jonah Lea'ea and Aliki Vimahi. Those guys have done an excellent job clogging up the middle as well as the ends. I mean, the whole front 7 has been really good. We allowed 80-something yards last week and 65 yards the other day. So both games, really strong rush defense, which, again, I say it all the time. That's where our defense starts. That's what it's predicated upon is telling the other team you're not going to run the football, at least not effectively.
You wanted to get the receivers more involved. Randy had 6 catches, Tobias had 3. Were you happy with how they were more involved?
It was a step in the right direction. I still think, you weren't done.
No, I was telling that I got one more after this.
Oh, double question. Okay, I think that we took a step forward in that regard. Still need more production. J.J. Buchanan was really under the weather in that game and not himself. When he gets back, hopefully this week, and is himself, that gives us another weapon. And like I mentioned, Jackson Benny has got to become more featured to get that where it needs to be.
And then is the pizza going to be a regular thing now?
Pizza's a regular thing, right, Elena? Every week. Every week. So, any particular requests, get with Elena. Could even add wings, maybe. It kind of messy, but
Yeah, we appreciate it.
you bet.
Yeah.
Our
John
pleasure.
Daly seemed to be like he's really energized this year.
Yeah.
What have you seen from him so far this year?
Exactly that. Tons of energy. He loves the game. Nobody loves football more than John Henry Daly. He's the same way at practice every day. He's excited about practice. He's upbeat. He's a great leader for us, and he has really developed over the course of the last year into a really good player. And you've seen him make. I think he's leading our team in sacks right now, and he's a guy that has one speed. He's all out every single snap, and he's, like I said, he's a fun guy to be around, and really has done a great job for us through the first 2 weeks of the season this year.
John O'Hall had a big game on Saturday. How have you seen him take the necessary strides to, be that impact player from, this time last year to now?
He's doing exactly what we hoped he would do when we made the move from safety. As you recall, he was a safety when he first got here. Kept getting bigger and bigger, but that didn't surprise us because we knew he had the frame. And when we recruited him, that was in the back of our mind was, hey, this guy can slide forward and become a really athletic linebacker. He's done exactly that. He's exactly where he needs to be physically. He's 230 pounds. He runs really well, and he's just becoming more and more comfortable as the weeks go by as a linebacker. And he's got good instincts to begin with. He has really good football instincts, but he has done a really good job transitioning to that position. Coach Colton Swan has done a great job of developing him. And you're right, he was our impact player. He was the player of the week for us in-house last week against Cal Poly, and that was a heck of a play he made. We matched the hand and tipped the ball and kept it alive and intercepted, almost scored with it. But and then he did a lot of really good things in addition to that. He's his run fits, his pass drops. He's becoming a fine linebacker. He's got a bright future.
Coach, with the way that recruiting has changed, with the emphasis now being on the summer recruiting months, what is it like in season now compared to what it was a few years ago?
Good question. It's a lot less visits. In fact, we have 0 visits scheduled as of this point in time. I'm sure we'll come up with a few during the in-season, but as of now, we have nothing scheduled, and we had 50, 60 visits in the summertime, and so it has done a complete transition, everybody, not everybody, but 98% of the guys are going on the summer visits and making their decision early. And there's still a few stragglers who change their mind late or still haven't made that decision. But it has really changed the timing of recruiting. It's the same, the official visits are the same. It's just a different time of the year. And I like it better now because it doesn't, it gets really hectic when you're trying to prepare for a game and all that and still entertain and have official visits because that's time consuming as well.
And just to clarify, the 0 visits are official visits scheduled.
Correct. Yeah. We have tons of unofficials. Yeah, guys coming to the games each week, but as far as having the official 48-hour visit, and that is right now there's nobody scheduled. All right. That's a good. Thank you, guys.
Kyle Whittingham Weekly Press Conference, 15, man. That's all we get, 15 minutes from the head coach. There's a light and airy nature to Kyle Whittingham's discussion of his team after wins like the one you saw on Saturday. Your Utes are 2-0. Now, the game on Saturday, particularly in the first half, there were some bugaboos. There were some sloppy moments. There were some issues that we're going to pick nits, okay, against an FCS team that you completely outmatch physically, that you are deeper than, better than at every position. I think it's okay. I feel entitled, all right, to getting critical on a Utah football team that still, despite playing a less than perfect game, hung 63 points on the board. Gave up no touchdowns. Again, did not turn over the ball. Again, more penalties in this game. You know what you saw in week 1 against UCLA? And, by the way, I know that people were paying attention. Unfortunately, UCLA is really awful. Okay? Unfortunately, our greatest fears about what that win means were confirmed because you can't take anything away. It was exactly what we talked about all last week. It was a clean performance. It was an important start to the season. It was a coming out party for Jason Beck's offensive play calling, for Devin Dampier at the Power 4 level. It still was all those things. It just was all those things against a team that is probably going to win like 3 games this year.
Hold on now. Are we still disrespecting UNLV? Is that what's going on? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I was just checking on that. All right.
Now, look, I mean, UNLV's got a bunch of talent, and they're coached by Dan Mullen, who's an awesome coach.
And they have a chance to win the Mountain West, but when you're a Big Ten team and you lose to a Mountain West team, you're probably really bad.
When you're UCLA and you've got a former 5-star as your quarterback and you've got another spattering of 4 or 5-star recruits, you should not be losing so convincingly to a Mountain West Conference team. All respect to UNLV. But we're not here to talk UNLV. We're talking Utah football, and I want you to get critical. I want you to get nitty-gritty. I want you to tell me what your biggest concerns are after the Cal Poly game and what you're still high on. It's not going to be all negative, obviously. There's no reason to be negative after a performance like that one. 500 yards of offense. You gave up only 65 yards on the ground. There were a couple of, and you heard Kyle Whittingham allude to it in the presser. He said there were a couple of moments where his guys in the defensive backfield, they lost their eyes. They had bad eyes. Teo Johnson has taken some bad angles. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if – because all camp long we kept hearing, oh, my gosh, he's flying all over the place. He's making plays. And we haven't seen a ton of it yet.
Coming off of back-to-back really good years, too. So it was like we've seen it on the field, improvement year over year from him. And we're hearing that, yeah, he's staying on that same trajectory through camp. So it's been a little bit perplexing to see as to why he has not been quite as sharp.
And that's the right way to put it. Not quite as sharp. And maybe he's just ramping up. I told you last week, I told you on Friday that my number one question was, can you avoid human nature as a Utah football team? Can you go out knowing that it's Cal Poly and it's a team that even if you play bad is not going to beat you? Can you still go out and be excellent, be the best version of yourself? And they weren't. All right, so the question was answered there in a way I didn't necessarily want it to be, but I was impressed with the way that, mid-second quarter, it's like, what is going on here? Cal Poly's not threatening, but this team is just like stuck in a little bit of mud. And then you had the big Jonnu Hall play. You had a huge punt return. And instead of going into the half 21-6, which if that's how it goes, you're going to get a talking to. And they still did. But if that's what it looks like against Cal Poly, a team picked to finish like 10th in the Big Sky, you're going to get a little bit of a chew during halftime. And what did you see? You saw defense make a huge play. Jonnu Hall's play, it was effectively a sack interception. He's rushing the passer.
Sack-terception.
He is pushing the guy back to his own goal line, tips the ball, pulls the ball down, almost scores. But if he had not intercepted the ball, then he's just demolishing that quarterback, and he made the right call. He got the turnover. Utah punched it in immediately after, and everyone's happy. And then, of course, you got like 2 minutes left in the half. Cal Poly's got to punt the ball away. You get a huge return, and you get another score out of that. Utah 5 for 5 on red zone scoring chances.
Yeah.
And none of them were field goals this time. It was all touchdowns.
That punt return was it felt like a revelation because we were so spoiled in the Britton Covey era.
Yeah, we were.
We were kind of spoiled in the Pac-12 era.
I mean, yeah, you had really, Shaky Smith, you go back far enough, like Shaky Smithson was always going to bring something back. Reggie Dunn was always going to bring something back. Britton Covey was the most dynamic return man probably that Utah's ever had. And it was awesome to see all of that. And it was encouraging to watch it once again for Utah. Defense scored effectively twice. The Jonnu Hall interception was effectively a defensive score. It was just a formality after that.
Hey, don't tell Nakari Rogers that.
I'm not taking it away from Nakari, but he should share.
Yeah,
you know
give it half a touchdown.
Like if defensive linemen, if D linemen and defensive ends and blitzing D backs and linebackers have to share sack stats.
Yeah.
A running back can share that stat with a linebacker.
Yeah, half a touchdown with the guy who got you to the 1 yard line.
Nakari Rogers, you scored 1.5 touchdowns in the game. All right?
I honestly, that sounds like a headache to try to keep track of stats. So although the
if you just started doing it, people are like, wait,
how do you get half a touchdown?
How does this linebacker have half a touchdown? That doesn't make any sense.
The sports betting sites are like, no, not half, because then you can get even on the over-under. We don't like that.
The two scores late in the second quarter, Utah ends up putting 21 points on the board in the second quarter. They're not insignificant because the complexion of the game changes pretty drastically heading into halftime. The halftime ceremony where Roy Jefferson and Ron McBride were inducted into the Ring of Honor was awesome. It was brief, but it was heartfelt. It was really, really cool to be there. Immensely proud of everything that Coach Mack means to the community and to Utah football, of course. A lot of people came and wanted to see him and were there to watch him be inducted. And that was really, heartwarming to see as well. Old players that came back, guys that you don't see all the time. That was really neat. Now, those late scores in the second quarter ended up being massively important for Utah as a football team because if you go into the half 21-6 against Cal Poly, then in the second half, you're going to have your starters on the field. When you come out in the third quarter, it's going to be a bunch of guys who have just been dressed down by their coaches, their position coaches and their head coach, that are coming back out, and they're playing the third quarter. Instead, this game played out the way you wanted it to as a Utah football fan.
Was it just one series that Devin played in the third? It would have been, like you said, it probably would have been the entire quarter if those scores hadn't happened.
You got a series effectively out of your starters, and then you said, all right, let's get out of this thing as healthy as we can. And that is something that you have to worry about now, because even against Cal Poly, Michael Mokafisi left the game, didn't return. I saw him run into that tent, and I was like, oh, no, please don't be anything serious. And all reports that are coming to me are that it is nothing serious and that he was held out for precautionary reasons. Some of the penalties that Utah had in that first half were because Jaron Kump was not playing center. You had Alex Harrison playing center, and there were a couple of false start dead ball penalties that you don't get from experienced offensive line. You don't get it from experienced teams because you had the wrong guy playing center. And when I say the wrong guy, he actually did a good job, but it just took some time to get it going, right?
Do you think that was also why one of the a non-significant reason why the offense seemed like it took a while to get started?
100%.
Because, I mean, obviously we all have a good idea, from the most novice football fans to the most well-versed football fans. We all kind of have an idea of how important the center is. Like, he touches the ball every time he snaps the ball. He gives the calls for the blocking schemes and things like that. But or the coverages and things, or not coverages, the blocking schemes, things like that. But like, I don't think most of us really know how big of an impact when you don't have your starting center out there. And that I'm watching it that first quarter and a half and going, what happened to Utah's offense? And then I realized, Jaron Kump's not out there. That's probably playing a role. They might be experimenting a little bit more than they did against UCLA. That's probably part of it. I don't know.
Absolutely did experiment a lot more. And that's something that there was not enough time, I don't think, for everyone in the media to ask about and address. But they were full-on experimenting. Smith Snowden played the whole series as your starting running back.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, Nakari Rogers and Wayshawn Parker, I'm looking around, I'm like, what's going on? Why Smith Snowden is taking a bunch of – and that's – I'm overseeing Lander Barton on offense. I thought that was cool. I don't need it anymore. I think that the rest of the tight ends have proven that they can be effective enough. I think that you now have a freshman who's emerged, and you probably weren't counting on that, in J.J. Buchanan. And I know Witt said that he was sick in this game, and hopefully he'll be more impactful moving forward. You got a lot more of Hunter Andrews in this game than he had in week one. Dallin Bentley dropped what should have been a touchdown pass, or very nearly a touchdown pass, on that kind of scramble rollout to Devin's right, when he chucked it long and it hit Dallin right in the chest, but he ended up making up for that. He played well in the game, right? And I know that there's, I guess, some feather in the cap for having Lander Barton, that you got to prepare for him as well offensively, but I need that guy to be an All-American linebacker on this team. And what you had last year was a situation where he was not physically and mentally all the way right for most of the year. And that now is an excuse as to why it took him to the last 4 or 5 games before he became Lander Barton. Right now, in the early part of this season, again, we're being very, very nitpicky on the show. Right now, I'm not seeing Lander Barton, the game-wrecking linebacker, and I'm wondering if it's because his attention and his time and his whatever is split between offensive reps and defensive reps.
Could be.
It might also be he's like, you know what, in the Big 12, I'm going to turn it up to 11, and I'm going to smash all these people.
Yeah, he's just like we talk about in general, tune-up. We call them tune-up games. Maybe he individually is like, yeah, I'm just tuning it up. I'm ramping up. I will be that guy that the team needs me to be by the time Texas Tech rolls along, which, by the way, got some junk mail about the Texas Tech game. Yeah. You got to get to.
Yeah, we're going to actually.
Maybe not here, but later in the show.
We'll have some breaking news on a junk mail release that we just got at the start of the show.
And it's exciting. Utes fan, you should be excited about this.
Bust out your breakfast recipes, all right? I want to give our conversation with Ari Temkin, which is coming in 3 minutes, I want to give that enough time because he is an encyclopedia of football and Big 12 knowledge.
And it was a big week for the Big 12.
It was a massive week for the Big 12.
There's an argument that it was a huge disappointment. There's an argument that it was pretty good. I don't know.
Well, if you're married to the idea that Arizona State needs to carry the torch, you're probably
It was-
massively disappointed.
It's bad.
I'm not married to that idea, and you should not be either. They are new blood. They are new money. Arizona State is the rich guy driving the yellow Corvette, all right? Won the lottery, doesn't all the way know how to handle being rich yet. That's Arizona State. What you need in the Big 12 is for Utah to be the best team. Kansas State, oh, you're already out. You need Utah to be the best team if you're the Big 12. That's a squad that people want to believe in. That's a squad that, again, I got to give credit to AP voters. The AP voters, there's no reason that Utah should have jumped 5 spots this week. There's no reason they should have leapfrogged over Texas Tech. There really isn't. But guess what?
Texas Tech has looked really dominant.
Texas Tech has looked awesome. And somehow Utah jumped over them in the AP rankings. And I'm fine with that because it is what it is. It doesn't really mean
It's
anything.
one spot
until they
difference,
actually
too.
play one another. It doesn't say a damn thing. But the AP, they listen to Joe Klatt now. Death, taxes, in Utah football. They're like, we want Kyle Whittingham's team to be the flag bearer for this Big 12 conference. And you know what? We've seen enough to make us think like, hey, it could be there. That could be what happens.
I think there's probably 5 teams that the Big 12 probably feels like really needs to be good. And as long as I guess 2 or 3 of those teams are really good this year, and you're right, Utah's in there, I think TCU is in there, Iowa State's in there, and I think Baylor's the other one because those are the teams that have won. Well, Iowa State hasn't won conference championships, but they've got hype coming into this season. Matt Campbell's now a trusted coach nationally. TCU's done it a lot. Baylor's done it a handful of times. I think nationally, those are the programs, and Utah has now done it a couple of times in different conference. Nationally, those are the programs that people go, I don't care much about the Big 12, but I know those teams, and I've heard that they could be pretty good. As long as at least 1 or 2 of those teams are really good, like they're supposed to be, the conference should be fine.
All right, Ari Temkin joins us next in 877-353-0700. Let me know what's your highest on right now after 2 games, 2 wins for the University of Utah, and what concerns may be starting to creep in for you. We'll talk it out. Hopefully we'll be able to assuage those concerns. Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio is next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. is alive! 22 straight years with a pick six for Utah. Benny with a house call. The house call. Jackson Benny extends the streak with another pick six. That sound courtesy of the Utah Sports Radio Network. Bill Riley on the call. And look, I know Bill listens sometimes. I don't want to add to the problem of Bill's already inflated sense of self, but he has been on point through 2 games. Bill has sounded great in these first 2 weeks. That means you got a special season incoming, potentially. Ari Temkin is kind enough to join us, recap the weekend of Utah, but also Big 12 football. He's Big 12 radio insider at TuneIn. Ari, welcome to the show again. How are you?
I'm great. What's going on, OC?
Well, you tell me. We got an interesting weekend of results in the Big 12 Conference. Some opportunities against non-conference opponents that we hoped, of course, the Big 12 would cash in on all of those. We'll get to Utah's performance against an FCS school here in just a second. But what was the most significant, the most impactful win in the Big 12 Conference this weekend for you?
Yeah, I'm glad you started there on the positive side because there were certainly some negatives. And I mean, I would probably lean towards Baylor's win over SMU as the win of the weekend because, well, I mean, Baylor looked to be starting 0-2, and they were on the precipice of starting 0-2, and they somehow, some way found a way to win that game. They were down by 2 touchdowns with 5 minutes to go. And, had kind of looked a lot like week 1 where they just couldn't stop anybody. And Sawyer Robertson has just been phenomenal. I picked him as the preseason player of the year in the Big 12, and so far that looks like it's really smart because the dude's basically thrown for 1,000 yards in 2 games. But it's all on him at this point in time. Like, they don't have much to speak of from a running game standpoint. Their defense is just very bad. But, yeah, I mean, I think backed against the wall like they were to come out with a win, they should not have won that game, and yet they did because of their quarterback. And then I think, the Iowa State win over Iowa was pretty significant. The day started really well for the Big 12, and then, the conference sort of collapsed. The conference went 10-5 overall. I mean, I would argue the biggest story of the weekend for the conference was not those 2 wins, but was probably 2 losses. K-State losing to Army and Arizona State losing to Mississippi State, because those are 2, preseason Big 12 favorites that fell. And in the case of K-State at home to an Army team that had just lost to Tarleton State, and if you're K-State, a team that many picked to win the Big 12, you've not looked very good in 3 weeks, and you're 1-2.
Yeah, I'm all the way off the K-State train right now. I still have hope. Weirdly, I think Kansas. I mean, you didn't want to see them lose to Missouri in the border war, and unfortunately, they were not able to get it done. Missouri pulls away in the 4th and takes the rivalry win there. I'm off the K-State train. I'm probably still waiting on teams like Kansas and on Baylor. And I'll tell you, Ari, I'm dangerously close to jumping all the way off the Arizona State bandwagon.
Yeah, I mean, that was as bad as we've ever seen Sam Leavitt play. And look, I mean, I think, Mississippi State appears to be a much better and improved team from, it was a disaster a year ago for them. But, I mean, still, you're Arizona State. You had the biggest wins of the season last year in the Big 12 with the returning players you had. And, it's funny because you look at the box score with Arizona State and the numbers jump out in terms of their running game, and yet this was in week 2 really we missed Camp Scadaboo sort of game because they had 3 opportunities down the goal line to knock it in and go up by a touchdown. They go 0 for 3 and then kick the field goal on 4th down and then allow Mississippi State to get a big play in that game to win the game. And, I mean, last year that just wouldn't happen. You've got Scadaboo who nobody's going to stop him when you need a yard. And, again, I mean, Malik Brown and Kanye Udo, I think, ran the ball very well for them. And Arizona State in the second half really made a concerted effort to run the ball more, and especially with Sam Leavitt, which I think was the smart approach. But, it was the crunch time running, the dirty runs in between the tackles that you needed the 1 yard that you're really left worried and concerned with not having Cam Scadaboo. And on the KU side, I mean, it was a disappointing loss for me. Obviously, being a KU alum, it's not like I think of the 3 losses this weekend, or of the 5 losses this weekend, 3 of them were unexpected. I don't know if we expected Oklahoma State to lose like an FCS school to Oregon, but we expect them to lose. And then Mizzou, obviously, being a 6.5-point favorite against Kansas, that was expected. But for me, the disappointment wasn't necessarily in that. It was, I'm a big Lance Leipold fan, but I thought he played not to lose. He coached not to lose this game. And it wasn't just the fact that he punted with just over 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter down a score. I mean, he did the same thing, taking the air out of the ball before halftime, which led to Missouri getting 3 points before half. I mean, he tried to run the ball 3 times. Mizzou took 2 timeouts. The third run, Daniel Highshot inexplicably ran out of bounds, which shouldn't happen when you're trying to run the clock out. And, I mean, you have a 6-year quarterback, and you're taking the air out of the football in that situation. That makes no sense to me. So he coached kind of scared, Leipold did. And it wasn't the reason they lost. They lost because they could not stop the run at all. That's the reason they lost the game. But I just hate that in a close game against your rival that you haven't played in 15 years, you kind of played it safe like that in a way. Just didn't like that at all. And especially the 4th down punt. I get it. You've got 3 timeouts and plus the 2-minute timeout, but you haven't stopped them all day. So, you got to understand not just the situation at hand, but the situation that you've been presented given how you played over the course of the game. So I was disappointed by that, but, ultimately, again, not a devastating loss, not like Ohio beating West Virginia or Army beating K-State or Mississippi State beating Arizona State. And I think, to your point, man, those teams that many expected to be at the top of the conference in Arizona State and Kansas State did not look very good, and especially at the quarterback position, because a lot was on Sam Leavitt. Going back to that game, with the loss of Scadaboo going into the season, I think a lot of people expected them to take a major step backwards. And my thinking was, well, yeah, but Sam Leavitt is so much more improved from the redshirt freshman that started a year ago. And I mean, he had a really bad day. And maybe credit Mississippi State's defense, maybe credit the road environment, whatever it is. But when I look at the top 5 teams of the Big 12 through 2 weeks, 3 games in some cases, K-State and Arizona State are down the line for me.
All right, Temkin, our guest, talking the weekend of Big 12 football here on the Sean O'Connell Show. BYU is just outside the top 25 rankings in the also receiving votes category. Their defense has looked absolutely phenomenal. Offensively, I think there's some questions that need to be answered, and we probably should expect that given the fact that they had to replace their quarterback and that they decided to go with the true freshman. What are your thoughts on the Cougars right now?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you had a chance to rank a Michigan team that's 1-1 and coming off a loss to Oklahoma in the top 25, I think you got to do it, right? I mean, especially given, Arizona State, tough loss. How do they fall from 12 to outside the top 25? If they were Michigan, they would have probably been at 20. And to your point, why isn't BYU in there? Utah jumps in as we thought they might with a win this week, and they do. They jump in at number 20. I mean, it's hard not to be impressed with Bear Bachmeier. Now, look, do I think Stanford's great? No, but it's still a Power 4 opponent here. And, I mean, the number one thing for me that stands out is, in case you're wondering, BYU still has a really good defense. And I think more the Bear Bachmeier thing is one part to this. And, the fact that you've got a true freshman that didn't even spend spring ball in Provo that's doing what he's doing, it's incredible. And I mean, the fact that he's wearing number 47 makes it even better. I can't wait for the rest of the country to figure out that BYU has a true freshman quarterback named Bear that's wearing number 47. They're absolutely going to fall in love with him. But yeah, I mean, to me, the bigger story is if anybody expected Jay Hill's defense to take a step back, they haven't. I mean, they were disruptive in this game. They were obviously disruptive all year. They recorded a safety in the game. I mean, 8 tackles for loss, a couple of sacks. They got a turnover. So again, I don't think Stanford's the greatest team in college football. They're probably one of the worst teams of the Power 4, but still they took care of business and covered 20 points with a true freshman quarterback. So a lot to like about BYU's start. And look, I mean, I think quite frankly, both them and Utah are in really good position in terms of the ramp up. I mean, I don't want to start with the season if I in Baylor's situation where you start with Auburn at home and then you go on the road to SMU. I would much rather ramp things up to really get the team coming together. Like I think the psyche of the team matters a ton. Balancing that is a huge, is a product of the schedule, and it's a huge part of it. And I think both Utah and BYU are in a position where you can really build confidence with your team in the non-conference, heading into conference play. Obviously, Utah starts with a bang with Texas Tech in a few weeks.
That name, by the way, just announced as the big noon kickoff game. It'll be a 10 a.m. Mountain Time kick. And, it's the lab in Wuhan has given us a new pandemic, and we're going to have to shut down the season the week after that. Can we just make that the conference championship for the Big 12, Utah versus Texas Tech? Call it good.
We don't need to see anything else, right? I mean, Arizona State's not even close to that level. K-State, no, we've seen enough. Utah and Texas Tech, those are the two best teams in the Big 12, no doubt about it.
You like I like the early kickoff. I know that, coaches and players and whatever, 10 a.m. Mountain Time at Rice Eccles. It's a breakfast tailgate instead of people, spending all day getting loose. Do you like the early kicks?
I don't mind them. I mean, as somebody that does like to have, a few libations before games, that's a bit early, but, look, I think from a conference standpoint, it's huge. Because even though the conference right now is in a tough spot with how they've played the non-conference, I think like this could be developing to where like it's more of a top-heavy league, which is what we're looking for. And certainly these two teams meeting, hopefully, and I would imagine they both will be undefeated for, the leg up in the Big 12 race to start the season on Big Noon is huge. So, and it's obvious too that, forever it was College Game Day that ruled the roost, and Fox putting a game there in that spot has really done a number on ESPN's share of the marketplace when it comes to that time. So I think like just being in that window is huge, and especially, ESPN has a preferential pick out of Big 12 games, and so with Fox being as in bed with the Big 10 as they are for the Big 12 to get games in that spot is huge. And obviously this will be, with the recent announcement of Big Noon for that game, it'll be 2 Big Noon kickoffs for the Big 12 in 2 weeks, with Iowa State being this most recent one.
Ari, love talking to you. Appreciate your time every time, and enjoy the rest of this week. We'll chat again next Monday.
You're the best, OC. Take care, brother. Be well.
Ari Temkin, TuneIn Radio, Big 12 Radio. He's the man. And yeah, I should have rolled it out with a little more fanfare, but that was the junk mail update. Big Noon kickoff, Texas Tech, Utah, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Urban back in town. Matt Leinert's going to be telling Devin Dampier in person that he's a Heisman Trophy candidate. Let's go, baby. Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt on the call. That's good stuff. Just got to go beat Wyoming first. All right, we got the hot lunch coming next. I'm going to tell you what the hot lunch special is at Big Willie's at 1717 South Main. And I asked a question to start the show. Give me the thing you're high on and give me your biggest concerns after 2 weeks of Utah football. Your responses on the text line at 877-353-0700 next. It's Utah's number one sports talk, The Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, 877-353-0700. Scott Mitchell's going to join us in about 10 minutes. I'll ask him some of these same questions, but I'm asking you the things you're highest on right now with Utah football. Stay positive, people. And, it wasn't perfect against Cal Poly. You had some penalties. You had some missed assignments in the defensive backfield. An FCS team should not be able to gash you on big plays, basically ever. And the Mustangs were able to do so. So we're getting nitpicky because that's what you do when your team looks this good through 2 weeks. All right, is it going to project? Is it going to translate in Laramie, Wyoming? Who's got, by the way, one of the top receivers in the country right now. One of the most productive receivers in the country right now is at the University of Wyoming. Is it going to translate, more importantly, in a couple weeks, September 20th at Rice-Eccles Stadium, when you welcome the Texas Tech Red Raiders for Big Noon Kickoff? Tell me what you think. 877-353-0700. The text line is always open. 2986 worries about the run. What part of the run worries you? Ran for almost 300 yards this week. Multiple guys are getting big yardage in the run game.
Nate Johnson looked good in the running game, for crying out loud. The running game looks good.
You averaged 6 yards a carry this week. And if you go through, again, all we have to work on is a 2-game sample size. You're averaging 5.5 yards a carry. That's okay. That's good. Now, it's been against a bad UCLA front and a completely undersized Cal Poly front, who we should give some credit because those guys were playing hard, man. Those guys were completely overmatched physically, and they were trying. So I hope their coaching staff has given them, even after a 63-9 loss, I hope their coaching staff has given them a little bit of love for their effort. Hard to find moral victories, but when you're an FCS team coming to play for the paycheck, it didn't look bad. Right now, the number 2 run game in the conference belongs to Utah through a couple of weeks. So I'm not concerned about the run. I guess maybe you're worried that there's not – like Wayshawn Parker hasn't blown you away, that you don't see somebody breaking 9 tackles, yards after contact, haven't been particularly impressive as of yet. I think it'll be okay. Highest on the line in the run game, lowest on the pass coverage. There's too much space. Multiple bad passes result in less yardage, but the space was there. That's true against UCLA. That was true against Cal Poly. You need Teo and Scooby and Nate Ritchie and Blake. These guys have got to be better. It's a hard job. It's the hardest job on the field besides playing quarterback, covering guys. Now, your pass rush, I think I would have liked to seen more sacks against Cal Poly, but I think your pass rush is in a really good spot here in the 2025 season in the early goings. So hopefully you don't have to cover for 6 seconds. It's hard for anyone to do that anyway, but yeah, you need improvement from the corners especially. 47-58. In 2 games, receivers have been roaming down the field. A good QB will hit those. Texas Tech, like Utah, played bad teams. TCU and Iowa State are the ones that look best in the conference at this point. All right. You think that your quarterback is not going to be able to hit guys downfield? I disagree at this moment. You had a big drop last week that would have been the highlight play of the game.
Yeah, he hit him in the hands, or in the arms.
He hit him in the chest.
That should tell you he's got good enough accuracy downfield. That play should make you feel pretty good. Unfortunately for Dallin Bentley, he just didn't haul it in. But that should, if you had concerns about it, that you should look back at that play and go, oh yeah, our quarterback can do that. He did overthrow, was it 1 or 2 guys on some of those deep throws, but that's gonna happen. And really, my takeaway from that is, as a guy, we're talking about a guy who everyone was concerned about the amount of interceptions he threw. At 12 interceptions last year. My takeaway from that is you overthrow a guy and it didn't get picked. That's pretty good. to be able to do that. Obviously, you want it to be a catch, but it's also not a bad play. So that it's the net neutral is not a negative thing either.
Hi, OC. I'm high on a pick six streak continuing 22 years now. Really cool to see Jackson Benny get that. Jackson Benny almost had 3 picks in this game.
He did.
He probably should have had 2 pick sixes. He had 3 balls hit him in both hands. One of them, obviously, he took back to the house. And the other 2, one of them, he didn't have anyone in front of him. He would have kept running. And the other one, he was going the wrong way, but it looked like he was going to intercept it. Again, we're getting real nitpicky. It's like, why didn't you intercept all 3, Jackson? He played well. He's played really well. Coach Witt kept mentioning his name, wants him to be more involved offensively and all that too. I want him only playing defense. Your defensive backfield is not obviously a strength through 2 weeks. He is one of the best athletes on this team, clearly. I think Smith Snowden is going to be more of an offensive player the rest of the year. I just do. Is that going to be good for this team? We'll see. But Jackson Benny, awesome player. Leave him on defense for me.
Do you need more than one guy who's a two-way talent on a team? I'm not sure you do.
This is the thing, okay? My dad, Tim O'Connell, one of the coolest guys you'll ever meet. My dad loves Swiss Army knives, okay? Why do you need more than one Swiss Army knife? That's the whole point of the Swiss Army knife. It can do everything. Why do you need more than one? My dad probably has like 10. Dad, why do you need more than one Swiss Army knife?
Because they're cool.
They are cool. That's what Utah's – Kyle Whittingham right now is my dad, being like, well, I want another Swiss Army knife. Why? You have one. Like – the Smith Snowden model is all that you need. He does the kick returning thing. He's an excellent defensive player, and he's the most dynamic offensive weapon that you could find on a defense, probably in the country, since Travis Hunter is off to the NFL. Why do you need another Swiss Army knife? Well, I want a bigger one. What? Why do you want a bigger one? Well, just in case. In case what? Give me Lander Barton. I want a big Swiss Army knife.
He could
All right, cool.
He could be a top 5. He could be a top tight end in the country. Oh wait, I didn't say top tight end. I said one of the top tight ends. But it's
like, all right. Okay, so we got a big one and we got a small one.
And you want? Oh, I want a mid-sized one. I want Jackson Benny.
I want a medium-sized one in white. It's like, what? No, just go with the classic red enamel Swiss Army knife. If you got one of those. That's all you need.
Colorado didn't have Travis Hunter and my depth of knowledge of Colorado's best defensive backs is not very good.
Is limited?
But is very limited. But they didn't have Travis Hunter and another two-way star. Utah 3 years ago didn't have Sione Vaki and Cole Bishop playing both ways. Like I feel like you're fine with Smith Snowden. And then maybe in goal line situations, you want to get another big target out there. Okay, Lander Barton. But I don't really understand why Jackson Benny has to be involved on offense. No matter how good he can be in that role, like you're good.
Here's the thing. If you're using him because he's fast and someone has to run with him, and you're not going to throw him the ball?
Nate Johnson.
Just go find Nate Johnson. Just go find the next fastest guy and be like, run. Just run.
You already have Nate Johnson's already playing all offense for you in that Swiss Army knife role. Just have him do what you want Jackson Benny to do.
What happened to Nate Johnson being the Swiss Army knife? What happened to Hunter Andrews being the Swiss Army knife?
Yeah, Hunter Andrews can do what
you know what
you want Lander Barton to
I'm
do.
texting you my dad's number. Get him on the phone right now. And
tell us about these Swiss Army knives.
Explain to me why you need so many Swiss Army knives, and then we will play that for Kyle Whittingham and see if he feels the same way. We're saying all this tongue-in-cheek, obviously, but I do think there will be a point of diminishing returns, and the first couple weeks, these matchups, also this week in Wyoming, this is the time to find out, okay? So
yeah, go ahead and all that being said, go ahead and continue to roll out these guys and experiment as much as you want with this, as long as they're not getting hurt, of course. But beyond that, like, if Smith Snowden is the only one that's still popping on that side of the ball, just use Nate Johnson more in the role that you said you were going to use him in when you re-recruited him, along with Nate Johnson. So that we'll see how it goes this weekend in the last like true experimental preseason game on the schedule.
3539 says, as long as the O-line can help the QB be upright, then the youth should be able to make it to the Big 12 championship. All I want is for that offensive line to be healthy. If that means that you're starting a couple different guys again, you start Harrison again at center, and maybe you let Olsen play right guard or whatever. I want the 5 to get as many reps as possible before Texas Tech, to be fully going, to be firing on all cylinders and all the other cliches you could come up with. But healthy is the most important thing. And both Kump and Mokafisi, Kump missed the whole game, and Mokafisi missed a good chunk of that game for mostly precautionary reasons, in my understanding. Don't love seeing it, but again, it was actually really good in the second half to see so many guys for the University of Utah get time. This whole segment, you probably heard me, by the way, trying to like swallow the excess saliva because my mouth is watering. Big Willie's has brought us the hot lunch today. The hot lunch special is a crispy Cobb salad. My thing when you fry a chicken cutlet, chicken by itself, a chicken breast on a salad is enough. When you make the choice to fry the chicken cutlet, you better do a good job. And Big Willie's has done a perfect job with this. The breading is exactly the right thickness, just a couple millimeters. Perfectly seasoned, perfectly crispy, and most importantly, the chicken on the inside is still juicy. So many times you get that fryer situation, and then you're only relying on the crisp because the chicken itself can no longer perform. Not the case with this cutlet. They've chopped up and made part of this delicious Cobb salad with the diced tomatoes, with the hard-boiled egg, with the bacon, and the pièce de résistance, the actual dressing, homemade ranch. I don't like a ranch with excessive dill. This has barely any dill to speak of. It is a perfect, creamy finish to the salty and crunchy contrast within the salad. Not a touch of rust, by the way, on the lettuce. Big Willie's at 1717 South Main. The crispy Cobb salad is the hot lunch special today. They always run between $12 and $15. Head in there. Tell them OC sent you. Watch some Sports Center. Watch some tennis. Watch some pickleball. Watch some NFL and college football highlights from the weekend. It's a Monday, and there's a lot going on in sports, at least reaction-wise. Head down to Big Willie's and grab a lunch. Scott Mitchell is going to join us next. He was in the booth calling the game alongside Bill Riley with Stevenson Sylvester down on the field. We'll get the Utah football quarterback legend and longtime NFL veterans perspective on Utah being 2-0. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92 on FM. Sean O'Connell Show continues on a Monday, reacting to the weekend of Utah football. We have so much to talk about still. One of the great regular season football games any of us can remember in the NFL last night. Maybe we'll get to that with Scott Mitchell, who, of course, legendary quarterback at the University of Utah, longtime NFL veteran, color analyst on all the Utah radio broadcasts right here on your home of the Utes, and hosted Down and Dirty immediately preceding this show. Scott, how are you?
Oh, man, I'm doing so great. I mean, if you think about it, we had football Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and now we're going to have it on Monday. So, man, I'm in heaven.
17 of 23, 192, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Now, I know every quarterback wants a sexier yardage number than that, but that is Devin Dampier's stat line against Cal Poly. How do you feel about it as the guy who's watched this position and played the position so well for so long?
Well, one of the things it became pretty evident to me that they were trying to do in the game early with Devin was to throw the football. I mean, I think Utah could have lined up and been very conservative and run, a lot of running, a lot of play action, and it was a lot of drop back throwing. I know it's something they want to work out and get Devin more comfortable with, and it just creates a much more dynamic offense when you can throw the ball as well as you run it. And I'm not sure that it's his strong suit yet. You know, I appreciate the effort, but he just really shines when it's play action and off the run and he gets on the move is really when he's very effective. And I don't know that was any different with Cam Rising or Tyler Huntley or so. I don't see Devin Dampier as much of a drop back thrower, and they were trying to do a little bit more of that. And I think it's why the offense maybe sputtered a little bit in getting some continuity. It was great. There were some amazing throws. The last touchdown pass was just right on the money, and he just again confirms to me just how good he is, and where he can go with this team. And it's simply because he can just avoid so much. He's just so elusive.
Scott, last week, against UCLA, it was great. Everything, such a clean game, especially for a first outing. I love the play calling. We had Jason Beck on the show last week, and I said, all right, even after a great performance like that, what do you want to see more of? And he said, I want to see Ryan Davis more. I want to see Tobias Merriweather more. I want to get those guys more involved. And then you saw that implemented in week 2. He said that during the week, and then the team went out and they obviously, in some cases, almost were force-feeding Ryan Davis in particular. When you're a player on a team and you hear a coach tell you, hey, we're going to get you more involved, and then they actually do, what does that mean for an offensive player, especially at a wide receiver position where even the best only have limited opportunities to make an impact on the game?
Well, it means you have smart coaches. It's really what it means, and ones who, I think Jason Beck, I think Coach Whittingham are pretty straightforward. And here's the expectation. Here's the guys that we want to get on the field, and you're really fortunate with a game like a Cal Poly to be able to do that. You're not under the pressure of, this is a really good opponent, and you're not playing it like to win the game per se. You're really playing it for more of that development, and being able to do that, not only it helps the team down the road, because now you've got guys who aren't going to go into week 1 against Texas Tech and not have touched the ball at all, and they've got game confidence in reps, and a lot of guys have, and a lot of guys, those guys were great, but Wayshawn Parker was great, Hunter Andrews was great, and the guy who was even really good for me was Nate Johnson in running the ball. He just seemed to run with more confidence, more kind of wiggle in his step. He wasn't just kind of straight ahead, and so and it's because they're getting these reps. They're getting confidence, and that just helps this team down the road. I think, Sean, for a player, and this is something I brought up on the radio, and it would be a concern for me, they've got all these guys they're trying to get involved, including guys on defense. And there's only one football, and there's only a limited number of plays and a limited number of opportunities to like prep. I mean, the most impressive thing to me is how well they've executed offensively with how many different parts they've plugged in to the system. It seems like every part they plug in does well, and I'm like, well, when did you practice this? How do you practice it? Because it takes time and to work through the actual plays, and you don't have a lot of time. So that's been a really impressive thing. But the thing that concerns me are people going to get greedy and go, well, I need the ball more, because it's not the way this offense is going to work this year. It's going to be, as I've said all along, it's going to be a patchwork of offensive production with a bunch of different guys just doing their part. And it's not a bad thing if everyone kind of can let their ego be supplanted and they just say, hey, we're better as a team if we're all contributing, as opposed to one or two guys that are kind of all we have.
When you're scoring 9 touchdowns in a game, 8 touchdowns in a game, and everyone gets their fair share, it's probably like, all right, cool, this is great. When you play tougher games, when you're up against BYU's defense, when you're up against Texas Tech or one of the more stingy defenses that you're going to face, and the targets, there's only so many to go around. The touchdowns obviously are at more of a premium. Is that when something like that can become a problem, when you're distributing carries all over the place and a guy's like, let me get into a rhythm. I'm Wayshawn Parker. I'm supposed to be your dude. I mean, again, we're nitpicking because of who the opponents have been, but is that when you have to worry about some of this versatility becoming more of a double-edged sword, at least?
Yeah, unfortunately, you're probably right that when you get into those tough games, you get into conference play, the reps are going to kind of dwindle. It's like the NBA. There's a regular season rotation, and then there's a playoff rotation, and not everyone gets a chance to touch the ball or to get in the game, and you're going to see that. I mean, but you're also going to see what's really nice about Jason. He's been very clear about this. Is I'm going to go with the hot hand. So when you're in there, show me something. Show me that you have a hot hand, and we'll probably lean into that more than anything. But there are some foundational players that are going to be there no matter what. And Devin Dampier, N'Keary Rogers, Wayshawn Parker, those guys definitely going to be there. Tight ends are going to be there. And I think they're trying to figure out who these wide receivers, the one who hasn't even played yet, and he has an injury, is Dadrian Zipper, and he's really good. And it's just unfortunate he's not been able to play yet. And, I don't know what happens when he comes back, how quick he'll assimilate things, but he's another talent. And so I just think and so maybe you don't see as much of, or maybe you see, Smith Snowden's going to have an impact every single week on this offense. And that's just going to be, he's going to fit into the rotation somehow. And, I don't know who loses reps, but I'm sure it's going to be based off of maybe the fit of the team they're playing, and also who's got the hot hand.
It seemed like, and I'm sure you noticed this on the broadcast, there was some platooning going on defensively. That was only because it was Cal Poly, right? I mean, where you had, I'm sure everyone noticed at some point in the game, Lander Barton was playing with Jonnu Hall, and Levani Damuni and Reynolds were playing together, and they would just kind of like rotate series. This is long before the second half when the starters were
right.
sitting or anything like that. They were platooning at certain positions. I think that's just because you were up against an FCS team and you were trying some things out. What was your takeaway on that?
Well, it goes to my point, and which why I actually like these games. I find them interesting. Is you get game reps for everyone. You also preserve your main guys, and that gives you depth later on in the year, because it's so important to be playing your best football at the end of the season, and where you're not having to eke out tough-fought, non-conference games or early season games just makes you that much fresher going into the latter part of the season, and seeing that platooning is kind of that way of preserving guys, where you're getting reps, you're getting a break, you're getting some reps, and a lot of guys are getting game experience. Jonnu Hall is the guy you started to see the athleticism. You started to see, hey, this is a guy that can make plays, and you see a guy that's getting more and more comfortable in the position he's in. And so he's one of those guys that is just absolutely critical for him to get, reps and to get experience. And then Lamani Demooney, his guy's been injured, and he's working his way back. Same with Lander, from a year ago. And so it's just such a, if it's done right, and it certainly looked like and felt like it was done masterfully by these coaches on both sides of the ball about how they're getting reps for people and how they're, kind of having some caution with things. They held some guys out in the game, and they didn't play at all. And they said, there's a conference game, those guys are probably playing. So it's just so much about building depth and preservation of your team, and it's just I think these games are really they can be very vital for you.
When you talk all off season long about the dominance of Utah's offensive line, and then in week two of the 5 are replaced for I think mostly precautionary reasons, is it a cause for major concern if Mokafisi gets a stinger, or if Kump, they're just resting because they want to rest him? How'd you process the different bodies on the offensive line?
Well, they like the depth, almost to 10 guys. And again, it's, it's one of those things, getting some guys some game reps, keeping them kind of in their head in the game, so to speak. And, there's nothing like a game rep, Sean. I mean, it just, to gain confidence, to understand things better, it's huge. And that's a great example of that. It felt like the 2s maybe played better than the 1s. I mean, there just wasn't really any drop off when other guys were in the game. It didn't look a lot different from the 1s to the 2s. And that either means maybe the 1s aren't that good, or maybe the 1s and 2s are really good. I mean, who knows at this point? You don't really. I mean, I think Utah's a really good football team, but there was no drop off, and you have to wonder sometimes if these guys that are, some of the backups getting in the game, because the second half looked, really clean and, across the board, and you just have to wonder, these 2s are like, man, I got my shot, I'm going to go for it. I'm not here to just kind of grind out the end of the game. I'm here to shine. And a guy who shined and didn't know that he was necessarily the number 2 guy was Bird Ficklin. I mean, he was throwing the ball all over. I mean, it was extremely impressive, everything he did in the game, and he looked really sharp. He looked like a kid who's going to be very capable. And I mentioned on the broadcast, that there's the future of Utah football in Bird Ficklin.
4 for 4 for 53 yards in the passing game, 5 carries for 55 yards. So Bird Ficklin, effectively a touchdown every time he was asked to do anything with the ball, and he did end up scoring. A first down every time he was asked to move the ball, and he did score 2 touchdowns as well. Let's talk about this upcoming week. It's your last non-conference game. It's an old Mountain West Conference foe. It's a road game because of COVID cancellations in Laramie, Wyoming. That is always an unpleasant place to be, just in general. At least the weather won't be bad this time of year. What are your expectations for Laramie, and what do you need to see from this team to denote the correct progress?
Well, you hope the weather's not bad this year. It seems like when the Pac-12 dissolved, they should have dissolved all scheduling things that happened, and this should have been dissolved. Someone should have blown this game up. Someone has commented that someone was not happy with the team, and they did. It was a revenge. I don't think it was. This is a tough game for me, and it's tough because. It's a good opponent in the sense that it's a better opponent than Cal Poly. It's a game. It's good. It's kind of a rough place to go. It's not easy to get there. It's a rowdy environment, and those are good things.
I believe we have lost Scott Mitchell. Maybe a connection problem.
Season. which starts super early in the morning the following week. So, and it's not a long road travel. So there's a lot of positives about it. I've never been a fan of Laramie. I've never had a good experience ever when I've gone to Laramie in my life, whether it's in football or out. So it's not one of my favorite places to go. And you got to embrace that. You got to embrace the stinkiness of it. You got to embrace that it's, it could be, and it's one of those things that, you want to stay in your routine and really dial into that. And this is one of those times where you're really going to have to focus and be ready to play. And so it'll be fascinating to see how the coaches do this, how the players handle all of this, and playing a better opponent. I think it'll be a good test to see where this team actually is.
Scott, big noon kickoff for the Texas Tech game. We expect both of those teams to be ranked probably inside of the top 20 since they both get a win this week, and there's always movement after something like that. And it's a 10 a.m. Mountain Time kickoff, as you've alluded to. What do you think of – we'll talk about it more before it actually happens, but the announcement being made that Big Noon and Fox are going to make this a featured game?
One thing that's kind of jumped out at me is Utah, I think everyone nationally looked at the last couple of years as more of an aberration than actually where the program is. And it speaks to the respect that I think Coach Whittingham has for his program across the country. A lot of people like Utah. And when they saw that first game against UCLA and said Utah has a quarterback and they have some offense, they're going to be a problem. And so, people who understand football and see it and watch it recognize that. And so I think it really speaks to the respect and what Coach Whittingham has done and developed with this team. You take BYU for example, and they haven't had that same type of time to build up that respect. They could be a good team. They could be a better team than being outside of the top 25 because the first week of the season they were, I think, 26 and Utah was 27, and now Utah jumped them, and BYU still didn't get in the top 25, and I think a lot of that is because of the respect that people have for Coach Whittingham and what he does at that program. Now that's nothing to do with the game, but as far as the rankings, the game goes, this is going to be super exciting. So I can't wait to see this game and wait to see, who did the better job in the recruiting portal because Texas Tech spent more money than anyone. And is it really going to pay off? We'll see.
We have plenty of time to talk about that game, and Scott Mitchell will be joining us next week to discuss it and the week after that to discuss it. So, Scott, you're the man. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
You got it. All right. Have a good day.
Scott Mitchell, Utah quarterbacking legend, and, of course, host of Down and Dirty right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. That's part of our Big 12 at noon, brought to you by our friends at Mountainland Supply. Go to mountainlandsupply.com. All right. Daily Dump coming next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Second down and 8, Grigsby in the shotgun. Shadows creeping across the field here at Rice-Eccles. Utah showed a little pressure. Jackson Barton jumps toward the line of scrimmage. Play clock at 13, pistol formation. Play action roll to the right-hand side. Ball knocked down and intercepted! It's intercepted! Jono Hall picked it off the deflection. Down to the Cal Poly 1-yard line. He knocked it back at the quarterback and then took it off his helmet for an interception. What a play by Hall.
One of the best defensive plays you're ever going to see from a Utah player, and I'm talking about any generation. That is a nearly perfect football play. Jono Hall gets credit for half that touchdown that happened, the second play after it actually got picked.
We will be keeping track of half touchdowns on the Sean O'Connell
That's right.
show.
Jono
At least
Hall,
for Utah football. We're not going to do it all of college football. That might be a little hard.
over under on Jono Hall 0.5 touchdowns. He's right at 0.5 touchdowns? Ouch.
Yeah, if they did do that, you'd start seeing 0.25 lines on betting lines if they did that.
Time for the Daily Dump, brought to you by Valley Plumbing. We flush out some stories in the world of college football and sports in general. Look, the NFL, what a great opening weekend for the NFL. What a great opening night, Sunday Night Football.
Well, not a great night for you because you don't like the Bills for some reason.
I don't like the Bills for some reason. However, the presence of Cole Bishop and Dalton Kincaid on their everyday roster.
Big game for Dalton, too, getting the opening touchdown of the season for the Bills. And he's had games where he's been involved like that and more, but it feels like those have been fewer and far between so far in his Bills career. It was really nice to see him play that big of a role for them last night.
It was not nice to see Cole Bishop get stiff-armed through the crust of the earth.
And for Chris Collinsworth to keep mentioning it. And, hey, let's show that highlight again. Oh, that's embarrassing. Thank you, Chris.
Look, there's a welcome to the NFL moment for every guy. And sometimes it happens even when you're, year 2, year 4, year 10, where it just keeps happening, right? There's no shame in that happening to you against Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry might go down as, a top 3 running back in the history of the NFL. He is apparently ageless, and up until that fumble last night, which ended up being huge and massively altered the landscape, the complexion of the game, he didn't look like a human being last night. He was just on a different level. So no shame, Cole Bishop, in getting stiff-armed by a guy who's built like that, who is a sure thing future Hall of Famer.
Or no shame in NBC showing it over and over again more than they had to, too. So
well, shame on you, NBC.
No shame for Cole Bishop that happened.
I mean, your team.
That was are you kidding me, Chris Collinsworth? We know he's awesome. He does that to a lot of people.
I tell you what, that's going to be one of those things in film that your coaching staff, everyone just ends up laughing because there's nothing you can do. Yeah. You go back as the player, you don't want to have to watch it again. Cole Bishop is just going to have to learn to laugh at himself on something like that because it's Derrick bleeping Henry, dude.
When I think on one of the many replays that they showed, because like I said, Chris Collinsworth just wanted to keep gushing about it. Oh, I think it showed him on the ground, hit his fist into the grass really hard too. Dang it, I got he got me.
He's a competitive player. He's not going to be like, oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
But when you go back and you watch it and people are sending you the damn highlight, your old high school buddies are just like, hey, dude, what happened here? You just have to eventually learn to laugh at yourself over it.
That take you back to when you told the story about your buddies during your fighting career. You're like, oh man, you got killed on fights that you won. That take you back to those moments when you see Cole Bishop.
And by the way, I never really learned the skill of laughing at myself like I should have. But Cole, there's no other choice. You just got to be like, that sucked. I still played a good game, and the most important thing that happened in that game is that the Buffalo Bills won. Yep. Now, John Harbaugh and the Ravens are going to have to answer for that all week long, people are going to be talking about how could you let that happen. Derrick Henry's going to have to be like, man, I played an unreal game. At halftime, Derrick Henry was the leading rusher in the NFL's opening week. At halftime, nobody had a better game, 4 quarters, so far as a running back, as a runner of the football in the early goings of this NFL season than Derrick Henry had in the first half against a Buffalo Bills team, by the way, that is respected defensively.
Yeah.
And Ed Oliver strips the ball. They get the recovery.
Heck of a game for Ed Oliver.
The Bills end up winning this thing, and really, I mean, that is a tone setter of all tone setters. By the way, Josh Allen, make sure we text him.
Oh, yeah, I'll get right on that. He's Joshy in my phone.
If you want to air a grievance against Bills fans for leaving with 9 minutes left in the game, when it's not even, like, I'm fine if you want to leave early when it's week 9 and your team has disappointed you too many times, or it's snowy because you're in Buffalo and you're just like, oh, let's just get out of here. It is opening night in Orchard Park. It's as beautiful as it's gonna be.
It's probably warm for Orchard Park. Like,
exactly. And people are just like, I can't believe this. Let's get out of here. He gave the subtle believe a little more next time.
Yeah, have some faith next time. Yeah,
come on, baby.
Joshy was great last night. He was incredible. He's the reason, other than that, getting that strip fumble, it was Josh Allen was the reason that they even were in that game still. Although I'm not a leave early guy at really any game I go to, OC, but I'm certainly not a leave early guy when you're still within 2 scores and all all that we've seen in the NFL over the last decade or so. Like, if you have a great passing offense, you can make up 2 scores in a couple of minutes.
I'm a leave early guy if it's a blowout. I have no problem with that. I really don't. There are people in the media who refuse to tell people how to fan. I'm not one of those people. I'll tell you. I'll wag my finger at you all day. I'll tell you how to fan. But blowouts, you could leave in a blowout.
Yeah.
If your team's getting killed, bye. If your team's winning by 6 touchdowns, you know what? I have other things I want to do with my day. The lawn needs to be mowed. Those tomatoes need to be picked. My dog needs a bath. I need to stop and get flowers for my wife on the way home.
My wife's not really happy that I went to this game anyway, so let me just
when
leave
it's
early.
2 scores, what are you doing? When it's when a comeback, while statistically is unlikely, it's still feasible. Grind it out, okay, people?
Yeah.
And especially when weather's not a concern in Buffalo or whatever. I did hear the stat of the day on the Dan Patrick Show this morning was one of the many stats of the day. So I think it was teams trailing by 2 scores with whatever it was, 4:54 left on the clock, were in the last 25 years, this century, were 3 and 2000 and something.
Yeah.
So,
that was on Sports Center with SVP too. The 3 and 2400 or something crazy like that since 2000. So super rare, but I don't know about you, OC. I was surprised to hear it was that rare because blowouts, just like in the NBA with how many teams are good at shooting threes, the way quarterbacking and passing offenses have gotten just so good to where they're almost undefendable in when you have a great quarterback in the NFL. It feels like in the year 2000, maybe a 15-point lead at any point in the fourth quarters, that's a blowout. In the NBA, a 15-point lead at any point in the fourth quarter around that same time, that's a blowout. Nowadays, it doesn't feel like that's a blowout. That feels like it's, hey, this could be anyone's game. But it's still crazy rare.
By the way, did you know that Jackson Hawes, this is, shout out to my guy Adam Mulcock listening. Love you, dude. Jackson Hawes, former Highland High School Ram.
Oh, is he really? The one who got them to the 1 yard line?
The double clutch catch, well-defended pass. He had to catch it and recatch it.
On the what would have been the game-tying touchdown if they had gotten the 2-point conversion.
That's right.
That's
a Highland Ram. He went to Yale and Georgia Tech.
I was gonna say when I heard the name Haas because of the Haases down south, I was like, sounds like a Utah name, probably related to those guys. Maybe he's not because he went to different high school than those other Haases did, but yeah,
he's the
Utah
black sheep.
guy.
They're the black sheep of the Haas family.
I don't know. Maybe they're distantly related to those other BYU Haases
near Sugar House Park. The rougher side of the Haas family.
But yeah, that's funny because I had that thought. I'm like, Haas, that sounds like a Utah name. And
well,
there
you were
go.
correct.
There you go.
Your instinct was correct. Last thing I want to bring up in the Daily Dump. We could talk about that game and those.
There he is on Sports Center right now, the Haas catch.
Sports Center highlight right there. We could talk about that game by itself and that collapse by the Ravens in many different ways. One thing that you cannot do, and I can say this because we in the PFL, and when I get to announce these fights on ESPN, it's always a great pleasure. And then sometimes I'll be like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so cool. We're going to do this big event in Dubai or whatever. We got one of those coming. And then you learn what the counter programming, like we're going to be on ESPN and what's going to be on Fox at the same time. And you're just like, gosh, dang it. Why are we competing with that? Well, if you're the U.S. Open final, why are you going up against the opening weekend of the NFL, the opening Sunday of NFL football? Why are you doing that? Like the product in
tradition.
The product in tennis right now is really good.
Yeah.
Right? You got these young players, great young players.
You had the matchup of men's tennis at the moment.
You have Alcaraz versus
One
Sinner.
versus two,
and
Alcaraz,
it's like
Sinner.
The winner emerges as number one definitively in a grand slam. It is a big time moment. And it's like, yeah, but there's NFL games on. I mean, and it would make more sense if it was like Wimbledon and Wimbledon was just like, we don't care about the NFL. What are you talking about? This is tennis. If it was the Australian Open, if it was it's the U.S. Open. It is the American major tournament. It is the actual people who should have some awareness of the American sporting landscape and your place in it. And you're going like, yeah, we're going to do the men's final is going to be, you're going to have to choose between your team's first NFL game or the U.S. Open men's final on a Sunday. What? No, that is terrible.
Yeah, they really should. That's how it's always been, though. Like that's why I sing the Fiddler on the Roof song. It's been the tradition to the first or second I guess the second Sunday in September is when the U.S. Open ends. But it's like you had all of August. Like, why don't you just start it earlier and be maybe I would say maybe have your championship on Labor Day weekend, but then you're going head-to-head with big college football. Maybe you do it the Sunday before Labor Day. Yeah. Like, come on.
Self-awareness is a massively important thing for all of us in every world where competition is a factor, okay? And when you are a sports media property and you have to compete for attention, which is the currency of the day, and you have to compete for eyeballs, right? You have to concede that you can't beat the NFL. You have to. We all have to do this. Like, I'll take you inside baseball here. Professional Fighters League. Our ratings have gotten better and better and better and better. We're having a great ratings year, okay? Our Black Friday show, much to my chagrin, another Black Friday show, we were talking about, is it still the right thing to do? Because guess who has established a presence on Black Friday? There's always been college football on that Friday after Thanksgiving. Guess who's now elbowed their way into Black Friday as a television property? The National Football League.
The NFL.
The NFL has decided, we could take some real estate there. So there's calculus involved. You have to be like, oh my gosh, do we still want to? Because automatically that sucks millions of breathing sports fans out of your base.
You know who else probably hated that? college basketball. College basketball has always dominated, secondarily the Thanksgiving weekend. Obviously, Thanksgiving Day, NFL. Thanksgiving Saturday, the Saturday after Thanksgiving is big college football weekend. But that the rest of that week has been a big college basketball week, feast week, right? And now Black Friday is another day that they're like, okay, now we can't win.
They started it out. The NFL was just like, let's just do a game there. Just do a game and see how it goes. And predictably, they're just like, one's not enough. Let's do 2. Now let's do 3. Let's make it just like Thanksgiving.
Amazon's partially to blame because they bought into Thursday Night Football, and they're like, well, we already have one Thursday Night Football game, that the opening kickoff game that can't be technically Thursday Night Football. That's NBC's opening kickoff. And then Thanksgiving week, well, you told us we can't have Thursday Night Football that day because that's Thanksgiving. So you got to give us another day. So okay, Black Friday.
So now if you're whoever, right? If you're the PFL, if you're Utah versus Colorado, if you're whatever, you have to decide to compete with 2 little companies you might have heard of called Amazon and the National Football League. You have to go up against that now. Just being aware of the place and finding a spot, because I'm always looking for something to watch. When there's no other sports on, I'm absolutely going to find what the Maction that's been genius. Tuesday nights, late in the season, let's go. The U.S. Open, that match is something people want to watch. That men's final with these compelling stars that are young and going to be in this rivalry for the foreseeable decade.
Looks like the rivalry in tennis, not just men's tennis, and all of tennis for the next, like you said, decade or so, for sure.
And it's like, hey, guys, have fun, because the Cincinnati Bengals are on. It's like, what? No, damn it. Anyway.
Well, and you have, like I said, you have the month of August. You could have, I mean, this is how they'd have to drastically rearrange the tennis schedule, the other lesser tournaments, to move it up a couple of weeks. But like, just do it, because you could own August with U.S. Open, because major tennis is a lot of fun, especially when you have compelling stars like Alcaraz in the center. And for me, Alcaraz is the guy. Like, so much fun to watch. So yeah, but that being said, I had forgotten that match was on, to your point, OC, because I'm like, Red Zone, NFL, first Sunday NFL season, let's go.
I mean, you can only be expected to have a reasonable amount of bandwidth as a sports fan. And when the NFL's opening weekend is happening concurrently with your championship, your tournament final, your big golf thing, your fights, whatever, you're going to lose that battle. You're going to lose that fight. And yeah, we're all excited about the result, and we like the Sports Center highlight, but it's better to be able to sit down and invest a little bit of time. Anyway, Sean O'Connell Show rolls on. That's your daily dump, brought to you by Valley Plumbing. Any plumbing issues that you have, give them a call. Inside your house, outside your house. They're going to check out my water main. I am so dreading having to deal with this thing, except with experts like Valley Plumbing, all the stress gone. Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, go out right now. You're probably getting back to the office from lunch, or maybe you're taking a late lunch, you're heading out. I want you to check your tires. And if they're starting to get worn, if they're feeling a little bare, maybe they're not responding, you don't feel the grip, weather's going to get bad. We're going to have snow before you know it. You got to have good tires. Big O is timing a bunch of their rebates and a bunch of their sales to get you ready for the changing weather, the winter, the sleet, the slush of fall. Big O has a bunch of specials right now, multiple locations up and down the Wasatch Front. Big O Tires, if you mention ESPN 700, tell them OC sent you. They'll hook you up with all of these incredible manufacturer discounts and the Big O company rebates as well. And the best thing about it, you can handle this on your lunch break. Call Big O Tires. Tell them you need 4. You got to swap out the tires. This is what you drive. I got my P125 R15s, whatever, okay? And they're going to get you taken care of on your lunch break. About an hour from when you show up to when they can roll that thing back out there. Maybe you just need the tires rotated. Big O is the right place for that as well. Tell Big O Tires that the Sean O'Connell Show sent you. They'll help you out. Have you seen what the outrage about the Phillies home run ball situation? We talk a little bit about some of the memorabilia stuff that happens. And I will say, catching a home run or catching even a foul ball at a game is like always, it's like a sports fan bucket list thing. It's an awesome thing. But you got to know that if there's somebody 13 or under in your immediate proximity who's also interested in the ball or is pursuing the ball actively, the kid gets the ball. Unless it's like a, $5 million Shohei Ohtani souvenir kind of a situation. Mark McGwire breaking a record.
But even in that situation, how vigorously, like if it's like almost a simultaneous catch type of thing with you and a young kid, or like the ball hit someone in the hand and then there's a scramble on the ground to get the ball, and it's you and one much younger kid who, like you said, is not in high school, younger than high school. How vigorously, even with that kind of money on the line, are you as the adult going, no, I'm taking that kid? Because I don't know. I know with all the money on the line, the potential money on the line, you're like, part of you is like, I don't care who I'm wrestling with, I'm getting that ball. But on the other hand, you're like, I'm going to take this away from a kid?
Yeah, I'm absolutely.
You are? Okay.
I'm kicking
I'd
that
have a
kid.
little bit of cognitive dissonance about
First
that.
of all,
I would.
If your child is involved in a scramble for like $1 million home run ball, you're a bad parent.
Get him out of there.
Seriously. Like, knowing how insane people are when any kind of money's on the line, right? What is that Shohei Ohtani's home run ball from last year where he went 50 and 50?
His 50th homer, yeah, that went. I don't know what it went for, but that was a very.
But that's the most recent like big home run ball, right?
Yeah.
If your 9-year-old is involved in that scramble, you've failed as a parent. When that ball comes towards you, you can field it from your seat, but besides that, you grab the kid and you hold the kid. And you just say, stay away from these animals that are going to be biting one another, climbing over one another, choking one another to try to get this ball.
And later you can explain why that particular ball is a no.
Son,
to stay away from that particular ball.
That ball is going to get that man out of crippling debt, okay? You don't need that ball. I will buy you, like, if I'm the adult scrambling for the ball and somehow like a 10-year-old gets that ball, I'm like, sorry, dude. I'm snatching that and I'm saying, I'll buy you anything you want from the gift shop.
I'm not saying that I wouldn't be that way. I'm just saying that thinking about it, I'd have some cognitive dissonance at any ball being like, it just feels like a really bad move by the adult in the room to do that to a kid.
But again, the bad move is the kid being there in the first place.
Yeah.
All right.
You'd be like, hey kid, like I'll give you $100 for the ball.
We're not talking about one of those balls. We're talking about just a regular random ball. Phillies Marlins ball. And this lady, it was a ball bouncing, empty seats, ball's bouncing. That is a complete free for all. Anyone can have it. Dad gets the ball, gives it back to his kid. Lady comes, chirps at Dad, and Dad is just like, get out of my face, lady. Fine, here's the ball, okay? That woman got fired from her job. She lost her job. She's like the most hated person in America because she was being a Karen about, give me the home run ball, and she got it and effectively took it away. I mean, it was in the glove of the kid at that point. The dad had gotten it, taken it back to their seats, handed it to his son. It was in the kid's glove, and this lady is chirping at Dad. So Dad was just like, lady, get out of my face. You know what? Fine. Here's the ball. Now, it worked out for the kid. He ends up, he gets a bat from Bader. He gets like, you know.
They found out about it, so they gave him some cool stuff. Yeah.
And this woman, there's always a reaction, and sometimes reactions are appropriate. Sometimes they are disproportionately violent. In this case, the woman, who I guess is a teacher, an educator of some kind, lost her job.
That's crazy.
That's a little much.
They just said bad exposure for us or something? That's
no
crazy.
Idea. Like,
Philadelphia is different.
I hope that's not – I mean, that's wild. Like, now, if
she did not deserve to lose her job over acting a fool publicly, like in that way.
Can you imagine getting in an argument with another person who's like, by the way, about your same age? This dad was like an oldish dad, okay?
Yeah.
And over a home run ball that's worth $3.50 or what? It's not. It's barely a souvenir. It's
Harrison Bader. He's a journeyman, pretty good role player kind of guy, but he's not. This is not, like you said, Shohei Ohtani's 50-50 ball.
Like, if you lose your job over the Shohei ball, you're probably like, fine, because I'm going to get $1 million at least out of that ball.
Financially, that's worth it to me.
Shohei's translator is going to pay me $20 million for that ball to launder some of his gambling winnings.
He's going to ask Shohei for some. I need a loan because of something important.
That's a ball you could lose your job over. Some random ass ball that bounces to your feet at a Bees game, you're going to lose your job over that ball? Man, it is crazy what's going on in the memorabilia world.
That's nuts.
Also, did you see we were just talking about the U.S. Open. Did you see the video of the guy at the U.S. Open trying to steal something from Jannik Sinner's bag?
Oh, yeah.
While he was signing autographs for kids?
It's ridiculous.
Dude, what is wrong with you people?
Oh, my gosh.
You know,
it's getting out of hand. Oh, yeah. More fans acting a fool. The Bills fan shoving the Ravens players, hitting DeAndre Hopkins on the face after one of the greatest catches
and
you'll
Lamar
ever
Jackson.
See. And Lamar Jackson.
And Lamar shoved him.
And somehow Lamar's getting a lot of flack for that. Like, no, dude. The guy reached over and shoved you about as hard as you shoved him.
James,
it's fine.
I have a plan. Here's what we're going to do. All right? I'm going to see, just for the sake of, like, testing it out, not actually trying to keep anything.
All right.
I'm going to see how much memorabilia I can steal off the sidelines at the next Utah game. I'm going to see, like, I just want to do a test case. I'll give it back.
Are you going to, like, clue someone of authority in on this?
No way, because then they're
watching.
Then they're either trying to stop you or they're subconsciously helping you, in which case the experiment is not being conducted in good faith.
I'm just saying, and you're confident that you're going to be able to talk yourself out of it if you get caught.
Well, I don't know about that. But this would be a fun experiment to run. Just see, like, how much you could get away with. You know what I mean? And I'll go visitor sideline, too. Who wants a Texas Tech Red Raiders helmet on Big Noon kickoff? All right? I'll sneak over there.
Helmet.
I'll grab a helmet. Some poor player's just, like, about to go, hey, punt team, get ready. Punt team, get ready. He goes back to the table to try and find his helmet. It's gone.
And then you have a Friday Night Lights water bug situation where you don't know where your helmet is.
Yeah. We're doing this, all right?
Yeah.
We're gonna try to get inside the mind.
Klepto.
We're gonna try to get inside the mind of these memorabilia hounds that are completely insane and just toss out any regard for convention or societal norms and are just like, I'm gonna act like a complete degenerate in the effort of getting myself some memorabilia.
Next Monday, when you see a strange-looking black Texas Tech helmet on the YouTube stream, you know why.
Hey, someone just sees me standing on the sideline wearing the Devin Dampier helmet with no ear holes in it because they close those off so you can hear the radio. Jason Beck's just like, will you give him back his helmet?
How you doing, Coach? It was a
Coach,
good conversation with you on Coordinator's Corner.
Coach, I'm testing something out here, all right? Respect the process.
Relax. Well, can you take one of Lander Barton's helmets or something instead?
Nope.
They have the helmet communication too.
Because guess what, James? That's what a rookie would do. They'd just be satisfied with anything. They'd just be like, well, I'll get,
they're still on the team.
There's 100 guys on that team, and
I'll get a Creed Whittemore helmet. That's fine.
65 of those guys don't need their helmet on game day, okay? I was one of those guys. You could have taken my helmet. You could have taken my cleats. You could have taken anything from me. Doesn't matter. I'm not going in anyway. No, I need an impactful piece of memorabilia, all right? We're talking about a Shohei Ohtani ball here.
That's just for the experiment's sake, just to try to educate ourselves and get into these crazy people's heads. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It has to be a significant piece of memorabilia. I also want you to just try to get into full uniform by the end of the game. Just with all the stuff you stole. Yeah, I got some pads here. I got a jersey here. Sean O'Connell in flannel at the start of the game. He's fully dressed to play by the end of the game. Can we do that?
Okay, 2494 says that lady did not lose her job. Okay,
oh, okay.
That's good.
So
1624
apologies
says
for the misinformation.
You're both wrong. If you're that bad a person to take a ball away from a kid in today's society where everything is on social media, if you're that stupid, you shouldn't be teaching anybody. Fair. If you're dumb enough to make a fool of yourself knowing that there's cameras everywhere, maybe you're not the right person to be shaping hearts and minds.
To be fair, she might be teaching kids the age of that kid that she stole the ball from. So that's
why she doesn't romanticize the childhood anymore. She's just like, these little turds.
But that might be.
I teach fourth graders every day, and they don't deserve to have the ball. I do. She's probably 9 beers deep. She's already spent $200 on beer at the ball game. And the dad, by the way, just the most classic. It's the most classic, like, grown married man. He's been in it for years. Kind of, you know what? I really want this ball for my kid. I earned this ball. I went and picked this ball up.
But I know I can't win with women like you. So here you go.
I don't want to hear it. Just shut up and get out of my face. And he even does the little, like, hand gesture, grabs the ball, gives it to her, and says, "Shoo." That's the classic, like, 50-plus-year-old man kind of. I am not yet at that point in my life where I know which battles I should not fight. I'm terrible at picking my battles sometimes. That guy should write a book on picking battles because you want to die on the hill for your kid. But in that moment, he's probably just like, you know what, lady, you're not worth it. This ball is not worth it. And by the way, it worked out better for his kid, which I'm sure in the back of his mind, it all worked out.
Yeah, he's like this is bound to get some attention. We're gonna get something from Harrison Bader out of this.
All right,
worked out.
Wow, we really abused the clock there. Sean O'Connell Show, 877-353-0700. Tell me what you're highest on for Utah football right now and what concerns you might have after 2 games and a few little moments of, hey, how'd that happen against Cal Poly? The phone lines are open. The text line is open. Tell me how you're feeling. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
will hold. Prater will kick. It'll be a 32-yard attempt from the left hash. Reed Ferguson to snap. Prater, the veteran, is ready. Ferguson sends it back. Robbins puts it down. Prater's kick is on the way. It is good! And the Bills win! The Buffalo Bills pull one out of the fire, and they win 41-40. Buffalo opens the 2025 campaign with a win here at home from down 15 in the fourth quarter. What a comeback.
Game-winning kick for the Buffalo Bills, 41-40. It's a win over the Baltimore Ravens. Featured matchup. A lot of people think that could be the AFC Championship game preview. That was from Sunday Night Football. Sound from Westwood 1. Ryan Ratke on the call. Matt Prater, 41 years of age. Half of his teammates thought he was a coach, and he hits the game winner.
Filling in, by the way, for the regular kicker who's like week to week, who might be back next week, like Tyler Bass. Like, incredible story just from that perspective, let alone the comeback. Did you also see the only other time that the Bills have come back from a 15-plus point deficit in the fourth quarter is 1967?
Yeah, 1967 was the last time they came from a 15-point fourth quarter deficit. Baltimore was at like a 99.8% win percentage before the turnover happened that allowed Buffalo to get back within striking distance. I mean, it just was a wild finish, an incredible finish, a weird weekend in the opening weekend of NFL football.
Your Niners had a great finish,
the Niners
too.
won. How about that? Like, Buffalo completely overshadows it, but the San Francisco 49ers got a touchdown from a touchdown catch from Jake Tonjes, who has played in 20 NFL games and had never before caught a pass. His first reception in the NFL is a game-winning touchdown against a divisional rival.
I think that was actually his third of the game, wasn't it? But it was he hadn't had one going into that game.
He hadn't had one going. He had
first touchdown catch of his career.
His first game where he's actually playing the position the way that he should be playing the position. 20 games as a tight end, and no one has given you a catch yet. And then you get this impact play. Well, really incredible.
Stole an interception, really. The way that he, like, that ball from Brock Purdy looked like it was going straight to Seattle.
And by the way,
and he made a great play on it and just snatched it out of the air right in front of the defender.
The San Francisco 49ers season is already in the dumps because Juwan Jennings hurt and George Kittle hurt.
Yeah.
And so I'm not.
But you got Jake Tonjes.
And Christian McCaffrey played, which was good.
Yeah.
The calf injury.
Nick Bosa had the game-winning play.
To be a problem. So, yeah, I'm not going to get overly excited about it, but a win over Seattle especially. I didn't have to deal with our sales guy who's a big Seattle fan gloating this morning, and that's a win enough for me. All
yeah.
Right? That's enough of a win. So, really incredible NFL opening weekend.
My Colts somehow, Daniel Jones somehow looked like the best quarterback in the league. Like, what was
on
that?
Every drive.
I don't expect it to happen again.
It won't.
I'm not getting my hopes up, but that was a fun first game.
But let's talk Utah football. Utes are 2-0. Cal Poly, look, credit to the Mustangs. They fought hard. Ended up having to go to the backup quarterback and then went in the second half to the third-string quarterback and then had to go back to the backup quarterback. I don't know how many games they're going to win even in Big Sky football, but they fought hard against Utah. Utah, the coaching staff was clearly doing some things where they wanted to see, not even before the game was out of hand. I'm talking first half. They were platooning their linebackers. They were pairing up John Hall and Lander Barton. They were pairing up Levani Demooney and Reynolds and getting people reps all the way through. Offensively, there is, and it's not a concern in a negative way. There is a question about whether or not when you get into Big 12 play, when you get into the meat of your season, things like attrition or, more importantly, just maximizing your potential for big plays requires you to not narrow the playbook, but narrow the personnel groupings down. One thing that this coaching staff is making clear in 2025 so far is that, like, hey, if we think you can make a play, we're going to put you in. Clearly right now, against the opponents that we've seen them against so far, they are not worried about folks getting into a rhythm. They are not worried about riding a hot hand necessarily in the run game at this exact moment. There's a distribution of touches that I think has to get distilled at some point. What that looks like, I will be honest, I have no idea. I would like to see less of Lander Barton on offense because I want to see Lander Barton as an All-American linebacker. And it's less important to me to see Lander Barton with 3 touchdown catches this year. I know that that's something that this coaching staff is high on his ability to do. I think Dallin Bentley is good enough. I think Hunter Andrews as a hybrid tight end and J.J. Buchanan, they're hybrids in different ways. You have a guy, Brant Keithy, when he was on this roster, was an individual who could run. He was a hybrid type offensive weapon in that he could be your wildcat quarterback. He could be lined up at a running back / fullback type position. He could be a tight end with his hand in the dirt. He could be a split wide receiver, a slot wide receiver, and you could put him out as the Y. You could put him out wide. Now, you have with Hunter Andrews and J.J. Buchanan, you have between the two of those bodies all of those skill sets. It's just not all in one package like it was with Brant Keithy. So, Andrews, give him the wildcat snaps. Give him the handoff from motion. Make him a running back sometimes, like you can do with Keithy. And when it's time to make a tight end also a wide receiver, which, again, Keithy could do all of, and Dalton Kincaid was more that than he was a true tight end, that's where the body of J.J. Buchanan fits. And then you have your traditional tight end, an inline blocker who can also run down the field and catch and create matchup problems with defensive backs and safeties and Dallin Bentley. You have that. You don't need Lander Barton to play tight end. Do I want to see him catch touchdown passes? Sure. To the detriment of him being totally focused and totally dominant on the defensive side of the ball? No. Is it are they mutually exclusive? You can only have one or the other? Also probably not, but I'm probably playing percentages if I'm getting really, really, really nitpicky. 1485 says, please explain what platooning means. So platooning is a term that, like, you have a unit, a group that goes together, okay? Platooning originally came from my experience in high school football where they didn't want guys playing both sides of the ball, so your offense was a platoon, your defense was a platoon. You didn't want to have any crossover. That's obviously the more traditional way college football is done, and that's the way elite high schools are done now. There's very few guys that even play for, like, really, really good high schools that play both ways in high school now. You have to have a pretty deep roster in high school football to platoon. Platooning the linebackers was like, I'm going to pair you guys up, and you guys are going to play together, and we're going to see what that looks like, and you're just going to – we're not rotating you because of any kind of injury. We're not rotating you because of any kind of offensive personnel grouping. We're just putting you two together and having you play against Cal Poly on this series, and we'll see what that looks like. And then the next one, we'll let Levani and Reynolds do it. Like that to me, it's an abnormal substitution pattern.
Yeah, it's almost
you're not going to see against probably even Wyoming. You're definitely not going to see it against Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Against Texas Tech, you put the best player out there available at any given time, at every position. And you saw in this game, well, let's just see what we got. Let's make sure we get this guy. And the motivation behind it, we're going to have Coordinator's Corner with Morgan Scally this week. I'm going to ask him. I want to know. Like, why did you do it that way? And he probably has a much better, more thoughtful answer than I'm giving any credit to, because I think they just wanted to get reps for everyone. They wanted to see more bodies. I think that when you have an opportunity to get Reynolds on the field in a low-risk scenario, you put him out there. I think when you have an opportunity to see more of Lance Holtzclaw and when you more opportunity to see more of Brock Fanoi Moana, you get as much of that as you can. So Trey Reynolds ended up as your fourth leading tackler in this game. He had a tackle for loss, half tackle for loss. He had 5 tackles. He played well. Any opportunity you have to get that guy more reps, and it goes down the list, right? Cash Dillon played no Logan Fano the whole game. Precautionary reasons, I've been told. That was a game where Logan Fano could pad some stats potentially, where having him opposite John Henry Daly allows John Henry Daly to have maybe even more production. By the way, I'm actually ashamed that nobody has said that the thing they're highest on right now is JHD. John Henry Daly is one of the best defensive players on this team. And he's a guy that we were like, we'll see what he is. Like, John Henry Daly right now is living up to the billing of what he was as a highly sought-after recruit in high school who originally committed to and went to BYU. John Henry Daly right now is playing the way that coaches at both in-state schools and a lot of Pac-12 and Big 12, and I even think an SEC school or two, they were looking at him as like, this guy can be super, super legit. He is an excellent football player right now for the University of Utah.
Yeah, he's had a great start to this season, obviously. By the way, John Henry, 2 first names. If you were curious about that got resolved in the post-game show and the post-game interview. Scott Mitchell was very curious.
Wait, he thought
he didn't know
if it was John Henry Daly or if it was John Henry Daly, or if it was first, middle, last.
Yeah, he didn't know if Henry was a middle name. He didn't know if Henry was a hyphenated last name or something like that. It's John Henry Daly, which makes sense when you look him up. You don't typically have the middle name on the rosters online. But he mentioned his mom is from the South, so she likes the 2 first name thing that's common down there, with the name John in particular. So, and he mentioned she's like Patrick Mahomes, Michael Vick's mom, where it's like, if you say Mike or Pat, like, that is not my son's name. His name is John Henry. So anyway, but he's a incredible start to the season and quite a revelation for that pass rush. We talked about that OC as an area of question mark. How good can this pass rush be? We have a lot of guys that the coaches are, going in fall camp. We heard a lot of guys that the coaches are high on, but we heard that last year too, and it didn't come to fruition. A lot of it because of injuries. It's really good to see Logan Fano have the first game that he had. Of course, as you said, he didn't play against Cal Poly. Hopefully that is mostly precautionary, like you said. But
for people who didn't notice, he
John
was
Henry
dressed.
Was great.
Fano was dressed on the sideline. He was in full uniform, but they took his helmet away from him.
Yeah.
So I think that if there was a scenario in some bizarro world where somehow Cal Poly made that a game and he has to go, he maybe would have gone.
Put him in.
Same thing with Jaron Kump, if I'm not mistaken.
Is a designated. They wanted to make it a designated rest week.
Which I kind of like. If they're injured, if they're banged up, fine. If it's just for the sake of precaution, I kind of hate. Like,
yeah, let them get reps. Let
but
them play.
It is what it is. That's like.
But
the coaches are much more versed and important, and they know the scenario much better than I do. The John Henry Daly conversation is one that's going to flesh out through the course of the season, and coaches will tell you guys are having good camps, or coaches will tell you guys are having good practices, or they're standing out. Because sometimes coaches have to kind of check these boxes, this is a kid who's maybe a little discouraged, or maybe he's thinking about a transfer, or a kid who's having some issues right now. Let me lift that guy up. The better assessment, and it's why anytime you can hear media scrums, you probably hear my voice toward the end, always ask players, and this is fall camp and practice stuff almost exclusively, hey, who is making your job difficult? Who's the hardest person for you to deal with? I always want to know that, because when you ask a coach, hey, who's playing well? They're telling you the truth, but they're telling you a truth that is also colored by motives beyond just like he's a good player. It's always there's some politic to it.
Some
when it comes
ulterior
to
motives, yeah.
When it comes to a player, and Caleb Lomu was the example I'm bringing up here. Caleb Lomu, who's the hardest guy to block? He can. They're doing one-on-one pass rush drills. They're doing half line. They're doing team drills. He's rotating against Cash Dillon. He's probably blocking Logan Fano sometimes. He's got John Henry Daly. He's got Paul Fitzgerald. When he says, "Yeah, I got to tell you, it's John Henry Daly," that means something, because that's a guy who doesn't have any of the ulterior motives. He doesn't care if he probably cares on some level, but it's not his job to know that, to make sure that John Henry Daly feels like his work is paying off. His job is to make John Henry Daly's work difficult, to make it feel like whatever he does is not working. That's what the offensive line is doing to the defensive line in camp. And when Caleb Loam was just like, hey, John Henry Daly is going to be a beast this year, I was like, okay, interesting. And I know some of his former coaches who had crazy good things to say about him. And I was like, all right, let's see what he ends up being. And so far, so good. He's on pace, ladies and gentlemen, for 18 sacks.
Oh, watch out, Nate Orchard.
Now, that pace probably changes as the season progresses. But the fact of the matter is, one of the ultimate questions you had about this defense was, well, what's it going to look like with kind of, an injury-prone Logan Fano and unproven talents rushing the passer? Paul Fitzgerald played a lot of the second half, played a great game against Cal Poly. Cash Dillon was the starter opposite John Henry Daly because there was no Logan Fano in this game.
Early sack in the game, too, for Cash.
Cash Dillon is a guy who Coach Witt has said will be a superstar. He's not prone to lip service for the sake of lip service. So, will you talk about things to be high on right now for Utah football? And yes, we'll talk about the fact that there's too much spacing on some of those passes. You saw it against UCLA where if Nico hits an open man, who knows what happens. You saw the trickeration play that Cal Poly ran, that if you're wide out, can put the ball anywhere in the vicinity of the streaking man behind the defense. That's going to be a touchdown. The defensive backfield has some work to do. These are the games you find that out in.
Yeah, and
if you're going to be high on something, pass rush, and the young pass rush very specifically is a thing to be high on right now.
Absolutely agree. And going back to the kind of questions you like to ask in the post-practice scrums, OC, another one that was revealing was, I believe you asked Teo Johnson, who's the hardest to guard right now, and he took a second. And he said, you know what, J.J. Buchanan got me today. And look, J.J. Buchanan, through 2 games, it's not been quite as big a star as John Henry Daly has been through the first couple of games on the defensive side. But he has shown that to be true, that, hey, he's got some skill. The true freshman has a place in this offense. And anyway, so that's another one that's turned out to be true.
I think you might end up seeing in this Utah offense this year that there is one star player, and it's Devin Dampier.
Yeah.
I mean, Fano and Lomu, offensive line stars are different calculus.
As far as the skill position, yeah.
I think if it continues to go the way it's been going, even though I do believe there will be a sort of cooking down, a concentration of touches and play calling designed to get the ball in the guy's hands. I think when you hit big noon kickoff against Texas Tech, I think that this coaching staff is going to be like, who do we trust the most? Let's get the ball in those guys' hands. But it is a characteristic of the offense at New Mexico last year. It's why they had multiple 1,000-yard rushers. I think you're going to see Devin Dampier as the skill player star. And I think that J.J. Buchanan is going to have a nice little emergence, but it'll be a different conversation than John Henry Daly because John Henry Daly is going to have more opportunities. I think that J.J. Buchanan, because we're using him as the example, is going to have to split his reps 4 ways, and John Henry Daly is going to emerge and has emerged to be the guy who's a starter. And they will rotate. You'll see Paul Fitzgerald. You'll see Lance Holtzclaw. You'll see Cash Dillon. But if you're the guy who's playing, Lewis Powell is not going to take you out if you're productive.
Yeah, if you're getting to the quarterback, at least pressuring the quarterback, if not getting home and getting sacks like John Henry Daly has done, you're gonna stay in the game and keep getting snaps. The other thing that came to mind as you were talking about Devin Dampier could be the only singular star on this offense. If you think about what's worked in the NFL over the last however many years, a lot of times it's not necessarily been the star quarterback with the star receiver combination, although that always is a good thing. It's the quarterback who is the star, and then he is able to get it to any number of guys, regardless of their skill. Like that's how the Chiefs have been the last few years, ever since they got rid of Tyreek Hill, have they not?
Well, Travis Kelce became the star receiver in that offense. Like
Josh Allen and the Bills the last couple of years have been that way.
Josh Allen is a good example of this. But like I don't need this Utah offense to mimic anything that's going on in the NFL right now.
I don't bring that up to say that.
You need this Utah offense to be a more efficient version of what they had at New Mexico last year, where it was just like, man, massively, massively productive offense, no defense to back it up. If Devin Dampier has 200-yard passing games at 80% completion, it's not going to be Devin Dampier for Heisman, but it's going to be 11-1 Utah football.
Yeah, what actually matters.
And to the point you made, I don't need a Tyreek Hill. I don't need a Travis Kelce. I don't need an A.J. Brown. I don't need anything that looks anything like that. If the result is more like, hey, these are the Patriots, and that's Wes Welker. Like, all right, cool.
Or Drew Brees and the Saints, especially after they trade away Jimmy Graham in the 2010s. Those really successful Saints teams were that way too. And I don't bring it up to say this means that Utah's gonna have the best offense in the country and whatever. Anyone who's nervous about no one's emerging, is anyone ever gonna emerge as a top target? Like this, top target by committee thing actually works really well at the next level. I don't know why it can't work in college football too for a highly successful, championship contending team.
3494 on the text line. Thanks for the pictures of the birdhouse. Pretty cool. Block U birdhouse. All right. The interlocking U's would be tough to make into a birdhouse. There's too much going on. Obviously, drum and feather, you could make a nice little birdhouse. The Block U birdhouse looks really good. Thank you, 3494, for listening and for being season ticket holders for women's basketball. All right, we're way over time. Sean O'Connell Show. We'll double it up here. ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Proud part of Utah's ESPN Radio Network. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 791 FM reminding you our friends at Advanced Window Products have a special going on, $2,500 off, 10 windows or more. If you need window coverings, they've got you covered there as well, literally and figuratively covered. Manufactured here in Salt Lake City, sold to you by staff here in Salt Lake City, warranted by staff, installed by staff in Salt Lake City, Utah. The middleman is gone. It is Nate Orchard, Jake Weber, and their employees, some of whom have been working at the company for decades. These people know windows inside and out. They can tell you everything you need to know about the window replacement process, and most importantly, all those questions that you have answered are going to be answered by someone who actually cares about the result, wants to improve the value of your home, wants to improve the energy efficiency of your home, wants to make your home a better place to live, and if you want to sell it, a more valuable sale for you eventually. Advanced Windows has been taking care of our community for a long time. They continue to do so. Every time we ask, we get the help we need. The same will be true for you. You're not going to get the runaround when you make a phone call. Hey, what do I do about this? Hey, there's a little condensation that I wasn't expecting. Can you replace that window? The answer is absolutely yes, because they stand behind their work, and their work is the installation, the sales, the manufacturing, all of it. A one-stop shop, truly, right here in the heart of Salt Lake City. AdvancedWindows.com, 801-850-9100. Tell them that OC sent you, $2,500 off, 10 windows or more. All right, it's your first real big weekend of football. You had college football this weekend, week 2, and, of course, the NFL started it out with an incredible Sunday lineup. You got Monday Night Football tonight. The question that a lot of people have right now is the Caleb Williams scenario, the Caleb Williams experiment, is that actually going to work for the Bears? Is Caleb Williams ready for another year? Will it be growth? Will it be the talent is evident, but there's just something missing between the ears? The Caleb Williams equation at USC and now in Chicago, we get more answers about what it actually looks like tonight as the Bears are in action for Monday Night Football. My beloved San Francisco 49ers are showing highlights right now on SportsCenter. They won. They beat Seattle, and they lost 2 starters in the passing game in the process. They've signed Kendrick Bourne to a 1-year deal. All right? So he's back in a San Francisco uniform. Good news, I suppose. All right, the Drive with Spence Checketts is coming up next. Spencer Checketts, the host of the Drive, is here in studio with us now.
Early crosstalk today, Shanzi.
Yeah, well, usually I'm very late. And did we double that last break, James? Are we we on pace? Yeah, so we're good.
All good.
Okay.
Good to go, man.
Too early for you?
No, I'm good. I thought I was actually a little bit early today for crosstalk, and James is like, no, we're good. So I'm ready to roll, man.
I've abused the clock for 3 hours, and we get to this last segment, and then I bleed over into your show, and people yell at me on the text line.
Nobody yells at you.
You're right.
Clock integrity is something I also lack as a host. I make Porter dance all day long, trying to make sure that we stay on task. How are you, man?
I'm really good. How are you?
I'm good. That was a fun day on Saturday. I was there as a spectator with some college buddies, so I enjoyed that and made sure I stayed at least through halftime to see everything for Mac. And then I may have left early. I may have decided to make my way home.
You won't hear judgment here.
Yeah,
That's totally fine when you're talking about a big blowout like that. Beautiful Saturday in, I guess we're still late summer, not quite fall. I mean, yeah, take as much of your day as you can.
For sure. Enough, let's see, how to characterize this. And Whit talked about this today. Devin talked about it after the game. No part of me is going to sit here and be nitpicky after an ass-kicking like that, but enough mistakes and maybe mental lapses for Kyle and Morgan and Jason to coach him up, this week potentially? You feel that way?
Absolutely, yes. And I am not shy about feeling nitpicky after something like that because that's an FCS team that's not even like on the upper half of FCS teams. And what you're going for is progress every week, right? So that wasn't progress from week one.
Yeah.
You played better in week one when you could probably kind of excuse, oh, it's the first time we've rolled this offense out. It's the first time all these guys are playing together for real. And then you regress a teeny bit, which is not overly alarming for me, but the standard for Utah football has to be incredibly high if they're going to compete for a Big 12 championship this year. And there were some things that came in below that standard, which is totally fine. Again, week 2, it's not overly costly against the Cal Poly. And yes, now you have an opportunity. That's teach tape. You can coach them up. You can say, what happened here? That can never happen. Why did you lose your eyes in the backfield? You didn't know the quarterback where he was. You didn't know where your guy was. I mean, there's all these things that you can afford to do against Cal Poly that 2 weeks from now, when Big Noon kickoff's here, you absolutely cannot afford.
What do you feel like after 2 games you know about Utah? What do you feel like you can say emphatically after 2 games?
Well, I feel like this is a physical team. It's a return to the physicality that you want from Utah football these last 2 years because of things like injury. I think it's mostly because of injury. You got away from that identity a little bit. That's back.
Yeah.
You saw some big hitting, some big, I think the first offensive series for Utah on Saturday, I'm watching from the sideline because I like to flex like that. And Caleb, it's a passing down. And Caleb Lomu has this, 232-pound defensive end rushing against him. And he just mauled him to the ground.
Yep.
Like in a passing down.
Yeah.
He could just as easily have just grabbed underneath the shoulder pads and like, you're not going anywhere. And instead, he mauled him like a grizzly bear.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's good to see. Now, I want to see it against Texas Tech. I want to see it against David Bailey as much as I want to see it against, John Smothers or whatever that kid's name was in Cal Poly. But that's the kind of thing that you can't get away from when you're Utah football. Because if you don't have that, you don't have Utah football.
Yeah, I don't recall my eyes going to the line as with any team as much as they do with this one. Week 1, UCLA, I mentioned halfway through the second quarter, I'm sitting on my couch laughing. And same thing, and certainly a mismatch. And I want your thoughts on this. When it comes to these games, when it comes to BYU Portland State or Utah Cal Poly, the difference does appear to be the most stark in the trenches with the size and physicality of the lines.
Yeah, and that's something that, as someone who went to a Big Sky school after being at the University of Utah, like that is the biggest difference.
Okay.
You will have a guy on every FCS team that probably could be a starter in the trenches, at the FBS or even at the Power 4 level. You'll have a guy.
Yeah.
But you're not going to have 2 or 3 or 10.
Right.
Those guys get, especially now in the transfer portal era, those guys get poached. And even in those days, those guys, you had to have 130 schools miss on David Hale, who was the guy for Weber State. He played. He had a couple years in the NFL. He was an all-conference lineman. He was awesome. Fremont High School kid, if I'm not mistaken, who just somehow BYU missed, Utah State missed, UNLV missed. I don't know how everyone misses. He's a great, great player.
Yeah.
But there's one of those guys.
Yeah.
And Cal Poly, I didn't even see one really.
Yeah.
So the trenches, Utah, you could have had Bird Ficklin play the whole game. You could have had Nate Johnson as your starting running back in that game, and you probably still are winning by 40 points. But there was enough in there that this coaching staff gets to yell a little bit in film. It gets to go out of practice and say, we're not doing that again. And I don't think that's altogether bad.
Yeah, it seems like, occasionally you'll see a really fast running back or quarterback who can sling it or a wide receiver who's quick and elusive. But it's not a fair fight in the trenches, which ultimately allows Utah to handle business, cover the spread, and make Saturday very low anxiety. But there were some things as I'm watching, I'm like, oh, okay, Kyle's going to want to clean that up. All right, I wonder how Jason feels about that. I like the no huddle up tempo. It looked like they were experimenting with some stuff that we'll see if it works later on. Because Kyle, after the game, I appreciated his honesty. He's like, yeah, we haven't really been challenged. I don't think he was trying to be insulting to anybody, but Tech looks good. So we'll see what the conference opener is. And obviously, this is the Porter Larson Bowl coming up. He is very excited about Laramie. So we are sending him. He will stop at the Flying J, grab a sandwich at the gas station, and then hopefully nobody will throw bags of urine on him, as fans are wont to do in Laramie from time to time.
The true gourmand, the Flying J sandwich. Let me ask you this before I cut you loose to do your own show. I expect in a game like this we're going to get like the full smattering of you get to play, you get to play, you get to play. Let's see what this kid can do with the ball in his hands. We saw some of that against UCLA that was less predictable. Against Cal Poly, it is very predictable. How much concentration of touches happens, do you think, between now and Tech?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'll tell you, one of the things I liked is Devin only carried it 4 times, right? So I don't want look, I don't want to be disrespectful at all, but I anticipate another Saturday that feels a little bit like the one that we just saw, and my hope is by halftime, all the starters are on ice, right? And Bird's got some juice. Now, I don't want to do what we did with Dijon Stanley last year when he caught 2 wheel routes against SUU and went for like 150 total yards. And we're like, hey, he's got some mustard, right? Dijon, get it? Huh? Nickname, secret weapon for Utah. I don't know how much of Bird's juice against Cal Poly we'll see all year long. But again, both BYU and Utah with really underwhelming non-con slates. So just get out of Dodge and make sure you're healthy. I don't know if Logan's going to play. They held him out against Cal Poly. If he's even compromised, keep him on the sidelines. Like, this should not be an uncomfortable trip to Laramie for Utah at all. This should not be like the old whack days or whatever.
It's always uncomfortable in Laramie.
Well, sure.
It's just a smelly, itchy place.
But the game itself should not be uncomfortable at all.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, adjust your expectations as you go. But so far, so good for Utah football.
Let me get one more thing from you, though, before I set you loose to have the rest of your day.
Okay.
Because you referenced Utah has to be a lot better to compete for a Big 12 championship. I don't know, man. I don't think this conference is very good. Like, I made a point to sit down and watch Arizona State, Mississippi State. Mississippi State is thought to be one of the bottom 2 or 3 teams in the SEC.
Picked 16th, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so in Arizona State at one point felt like as close of a consensus to win the thing. Baylor with a good win. That's a good bounce-back win. K-State might be bad. Mike Gundy learned a lesson over the weekend, too. Like, how good do you think this conference actually is?
Well, I think it's kind of like last year where you just have to slide who's good up and down because we all thought Arizona State was going to suck, and they were legitimately an awesome team last year.
For sure.
I mean, moral victories don't count, but they took Texas to the brink, right?
Yeah, they did.
That was a really, really good team. I wasn't as high on them because I thought that Cam Scadaboo leaving was a huge problem.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't think Arizona State's as good as anyone thought they were going to be. I think that K-State, we already know, is not. I think TCU is much better than most people thought they would
Agree with that, yep.
I think Texas Tech is living up to the billing right now. I think Utah is better than most people thought they would be. I think BYU is better than everyone. Everyone wanted to say, without Retzlaff, they're going to stink. That defense is going to make everyone's life miserable.
For sure, yep.
Like, people hate hearing me say it. BYU football is now Utah football.
It is. It absolutely is. And the way that they're discussed nationally sounds really similar to the way Utah's been discussed under Witt.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of similarities.
They are right now. They are Utah football with Jason Shelley playing quarterback.
I like that. Yeah, that's good.
Guess what happened that year? They lost in the championship game.
Yep. Good parallel, yeah.
That's what they look like right now. So
we'll see.
I think that the Big 12 Conference will be, plagued by their own parity, but I think that Texas Tech, TCU, Utah, Iowa State, BYU are good enough right now that they can beat a lot of teams in the country.
Yeah, that feels like the group at the top. And, to your point, we'll probably readjust based off of this weekend's results, except for BYU because we have a week 3 bye, which is so dumb. It's the dumbest thing, but here we are.
Stanford had a week 1 bye, which is
also
even
dumb.
worse.
Yeah, also dumb.
Anyway, stay tuned for The Drive with Spence Checketts. Thank you for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. We'll do it again tomorrow on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.